Good evening and welcome to Flat Earth Debate with me, Nathan Oakley. If you're new to this channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Unfortunately, the last show was shut down slightly abruptly thanks to an indiscriminate porn bomber who decided to... What's the word? Porn bomb! That's the one. So we had to end that stream slightly early, but that's an unfortunate thing I've not had to... I'm not unfamiliar with, so I've been porn bombed before and dealt with it swiftly and just started a new stream. So there is the link to join this show in the info box below this video. If you would like to join in with the debate, hit that link and join the show. If you're new to Nathan Oakley, there is also a link in the info box below this video to my main channel where you can see all of my opinions and views and all things Flat Earth, including video logs and interviews. So if you would like to join this show, click on the info box. I'm going to transition across to my slideshow just in the meantime while we hopefully get a few participants to join. There are only a couple of rules. The first being there is no swearing, so please do not swear. If you do, you'll be asked politely to stop swearing. If you're asked a second time, you won't be asked a third. The only other rule is if you are ejected from the stream, you will be warmly welcomed back, unless you're playing pornography, on the next stream, so feel free to rejoin, but essentially if you've been kicked, the chances are you are too heated to remain in the stream. So, happy chatting to all who join. I'll hopefully join you again once we get a guest to welcome them in, or maybe plug the show and explain the format once more if we don't. Do have a couple of guests in the chat, so I may as well shout out Dazza and John Watson and Ron Burgundy. Thank you very much for joining us.
Time check. 1, 2, 1.
Yeah, that's working brilliant. Not sure if the stream can hear you. If you could just say something once more, just so I can check that the feed actually can hear you. That'd be really, really appreciated.
Check 1, check 2.
Yeah, you're getting out to the audience. Thank you very much. Was it Dazza?
Yo.
Thank you very much. just taken a few anti-porn bombing measures with the Hangout. I'm not exactly sure how effective they will be with an unbroadcast Hangout screen, but I'm pretty sure that they will at least not be able to take control of the full screen. We shall see. Hopefully, anti-porn bomb measures in place. That shouldn't be a problem again. I seem to remember having exactly the same reaction last time when it happened on sun tracking. I'm surprised I don't remember the workaround from last time immediately, but didn't put it in place, so technically my fault that we got porn bombed, as I should have had those measured in place and didn't. But there we go, you live and learn. That's why I've done these hopefully 10 or so streams on my backup channel as opposed to on the main channel, as things like this, little reminders of past streams where I've shared the link in the info box, and the downsides to that is that people can try and take control with porn, unfortunately. But there we go, it's one of those. Don't think it'll be happening again. Back to enticing keyboard warriors into the chat. So Nick L, I think, was it yourself who came on earlier? You're welcome to come back on and state your views completely unopposed, as there is no one else here at the moment. Same goes for yourself, Ron Burgundy and Mark Fanning. Feel free to join by clicking on the link in the info box below this video. As I say, you will be completely unopposed for at least the time being. You can spout your rhetoric to your heart's content. So for all of you who are watching in the chat, there's about 30, 35 people in the chat right now. The link is in the info box if you'd like to join. Your views will be completely unopposed. There is no one to challenge you, only myself to sit and listen politely. So if you'd like to join the show, click on the link in the info box below this video. If you are new to Nathan Oakley channel, click on the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you're new to me in general, click on the link in the info box to Nathan Oakley 1980, my main channel, where you can see my views and opinions being expressed about the Flat Earth, and indeed video logs and interviews. Excellent timing. So we have been joined by Curved Water. Thank you for returning.
Can you hear me?
Not yet. There we go. You unmute, you should be able to be heard now. My anti-porn bombing measures have been put in place.
Okay, good idea.
I must admit, I should have remembered that from the sun tracking, but it's just one of those, it's been such a long time, and that's why I did it on the backup channel, for exactly that reason. When things like that happen, you think, oh yeah, there's 3 little radar buttons that tell me exactly how to solve that problem. I just forgot. So in technical terms, it's my fault. But there we go. Such is life. You live and learn.
Yeah, it's sad how that works.
Yeah, like I say, it's not the first time I've been porn bombed, so the way I dealt with it was exactly the same as this time. You just immediately end the stream. This time, at least, I was professional enough to actually give it a proper ending, so when I snip out the bit of porn, it'll still remain as a decent show with a decent beginning, middle, and end, which is really all I'm fussed about, so I'm still happy. Now you're here. If you don't mind, this is going to be really rude because I've been sat here for quite some time. Hey, little chicken, I'll be with you in a sec. I'm just going to make myself a quick cup of coffee. So I'm going to turn off my camera and stick myself on mute just for a sec. Hopefully you'll be joined with someone else shortly.
Cool.
I will keep an eye, so I'll unmute them and stuff if I do see them, because I can still see.
Hello, Charlie, if you can hear me out there. Oh, sorry to interrupt my comment to Charlie, but as Multi-Tom has so politely asked, for water, you really 83? No, Tom, where would you get such an inane idea? I've told everybody, I don't know how many times now, I am 52, dude. I'm 52. So, what's the problem? Anyway, enough of that. Charlie, with this O plus R equaling O minus R and all that kind of good stuff that you keep bantering about, what about the fact that the rotational velocities relative to the axis of the Earth, which is, of course, moving with the Earth as the Earth moves, trying to add and subtract the orbital speed of the Earth doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It seems to be kind of a non-factor in this. And when you consider that basically in the orbit of the Earth around the sun, we're basically in free fall, just as the astronauts on the ISS are in free fall. And they are not feeling, they're not being tossed about feeling the change in vector while they are, orbiting the Earth in the free fall. This has like a no net force on them. The same should apply, I would think, to the situation with the Earth. The orbital speed and rotational speed, they don't combine. This is not a mix and match thing. They don't get added. They don't get Yeah, the change in direction. Oh my God, that's ridiculously slight. Any acceleration, and I'm talking about deviation from a straight line acceleration, not speed change. Um, physics sense acceleration. Any acceleration there would be like minimal, and I still say, due to the free fall aspect of our orbit, I would say it would be inconsequential. You is kind of he's trying to make something out of nothing here, whether it's intentional because he thinks it's a win for him and he just won't let go of it, or if he's just honestly confused. Either way, I say he just could not be more wrong about this. Now, as for his claims that he's been asking for X amount of time and nobody ever answers, nonsense. Why do you even play that game? People answer you on this all the time, man. I mean, integrity is like the only thing that you could have. You don't have facts, and you just piss your integrity away with your behavior and your lies.
Hopefully we'll have someone join you shortly, Curved. We shall see. If not, maybe a very boring stream. Hopefully not.
Okay. It's a spear until proven otherwise here. I'm the only one on the panel with you. Ah. Dell argument. Who's bringing up a Dell argument? That's going to trigger me. Objects in free fall will be, weightless, John Watson. If you're falling at the rate of the gravitational acceleration, I don't know why weight should be expected to be, felt or whatever. That doesn't make sense. So just mocking the idea, John, that's not very scientific or intelligent of you. I notice you do that a lot. And now you'll mock me and you'll call me bendy water. You'll make up false statements about me because you're kind of a bitter old, decrepit, senile twat. But so it goes. Beat you to it this time. John and I go back a long way. He's been threatening me for, oh God, probably it's been over a year since the first one. But, oh well. Yeah, I was supposed to have been exposed back quite some time ago. I don't know what happened. Watson always disappoints.
So if you'd like to come in and challenge what Curved Water has to say, feel free to click on the link in the info box below this video.
You're not intimidating anybody, Watson. Put a cork in it.
Yeah, I'm not too fussed if it goes on for a while with dead air. It's just one of those with these types of shows. Come on, chicken, calm down. One of those, yeah, I don't mind. So dead air, fine. It's just one of those. Yes, HSP gang. Where is Arwen when you need him?
Might be doing some hair maintenance.
Could be looking for that elusive hair bubble, just the right colour. was such a pity because it was such a great conversation earlier. It's just a sod that, I don't know, people must just have a sixth sense for when my kid's screaming her head off and I literally can't hear. And it probably only took me 10 seconds to realise what was going on. And then, of course, you try and click and eject, and it just seems like the first 3 attempts that you try and eject them, you probably see on the rerun if I leave that bit up. I probably won't because it'll be part of the porn. But you probably saw I tried ejecting him 3 times. Click, eject, didn't eject. Click, eject, didn't eject. And then on the 3rd attempt, it threw up a blue box that says, "Are you sure you want to eject this person?" I'm like, it's my 3rd attempt. Yes, I do. But by then, it'd been about 30 seconds. So 10 seconds of me not noticing because I was distracted. 10 seconds of actually 2 girls and 1 cup on screen because the guy was talking. And then even then, I looked at it and I thought, this doesn't look like porn. What's going on? It took me a couple more seconds to realise. Then I was onto it. And by then it's like, well, you've let this run for 30 seconds. But things go so quickly when you're distracted. It was a good show, Fruity You. Hi, Fruity You. Pity, but there we go. That's life. In a way, it's good to have these shows, in a way, end abruptly, because that's a good way to round it out for the next one. They all start the same, which is with nobody, and eventually they end up with a cracking conversation. All 5 of them so far have been excellent. I'm not going to lie, the first one included with mostly just globeheads spouting their rhetoric. Tim Osman, Lewis Hackett, and Jem Panda. And, that is the best start you can have if you've got a show as a flat earther to entice other flat earthers to come and say, no, I don't agree with you. So, again, it showed that I was happy to do it as well. Happy to bite my tongue and just let them do it. It's been difficult, though, I'm not going to lie. When you're listening to some of this stuff, you want to, not just from globeheads either, if you listen to some of the stuff that flat earthers come out with. And the most moderation I've had to do has been with the flat earthers. Flat earther on flat earther. So when it's the globeheads, I've been less inclined to get in and moderate. The chat, internal chat, the actual verbal chat tends to be self-moderating. People will check each other and say, well, hang on, you're not letting me get a word in. So it's not often that I have to actually interject at all. But when it was flat earthers, what a nightmare. Yep, the classic 2 girls, 1 cup. Say, I'm Oz drunk. I'm so drunk. Upside down text. No need, DQ. No need. I will eventually figure out how to get this chat so that it does actually auto-hide all these messages, because they are all worthy of being deleted. Do you have the chat up? Oh, yes, I do. Your chat's being broadcast, so at least people can see what you're debating about in the chat room. I'll go on mute while my kid has a little paddy.
That is extremely disingenuous of you. For you to sit here and continue to claim we ignore mechanics and need to. No, it's being specifically addressed over and over and over. You are simply exposing yourself for the dishonest liar that you are, and that's that, Ute. Your tactics are deplorable, dude. Do you not wonder why no decent person has any respect for you? Your little fan club, basically, for the most part, it's full of scum, you. And way less than intelligent people. If not scummy, just so silly they're so easily deceived by your nonsense. Your speed is meaningless, Ute. Your speed is meaningless with the orbital speed. It is basically no effect. I've asked you before, and you cowered from the question. You hid behind what you thought was a clever reply. I'm going to ask you again, you. What do you think is the effect of the orbital speed in this situation? Nothing magic about free fall, Ute. Calling it magic just makes you look silly. This is all about your arguments from ignorance and arguments from incredulity, which neither of those are actual arguments, they're fallacies. So deal with it. The rotation does not create a variable at the surface, Ute. The rotation speed is constant. You do not add it or subtract it with the orbital speed. The rotational speed, if I said that wrong, I've got a feeling in my head I just said that incorrectly. Hang on, I got a minute. The rotational speed is not something that you just mix and match, add in and subtract with the orbital speed. That's a simple fact, you. Just because you've chosen to make this straw man does not make it valid. That's simple, dude.
Have you ever actually spoken to Ute?
Yeah. Well, not in the same hangout.
That's what I mean, like verbally.
No, he's always in chat. I've never been in a hangout. I mean, there's not very many to pick from that he's actually even gone into on mic, but no, I've never been able to do that. You doesn't like to go head to head on a hangout because he can't cut and paste in voice. That's my theory. And that's a colloquial use of the word theory, not scientific. People get banned everywhere, John Watson. The difference is why people get banned at different places. And while I am not ED, basically, most likely because why am I switching to Ute's question? You can wait your turn, Ute. People get banned at ED mostly, and certainly when I have anything to do with it, for coming in, making baseless, derpy assertions, preaching, not providing evidence, being stupid, and not engaging in conversation. I try to engage when. I forgot. Okay, so I try to engage people in conversation there in the chat, and they usually just end up acting a fool, uh, proclaiming victory with no evidence, and you can't have a discussion with them. And after a while, you get fed up. Well, see, there you go. There's a great ad hom example there, John Watson. Great argument. It doesn't quite stack up very well to what I've just explained, but think what you like if you consider that thinking. Now, YouTube, why is my voice totally different? It could be because I smoke. I don't smoke as much as I used to. Trying very hard to cut down, and I'm being successful at that. I speak at different energy levels, which does affect probably tonal quality of my voice. And sometimes it might just come down to how much phlegm is in my throat. How recently have I coughed it out? Pi does not equal 4, YouTube. Pi does not equal 4. Now, I'm also on my built-in microphone on my little tablet. I don't have my Blue Ice Snowball official shill issue microphone like Mark Sargent has hooked up at the moment. Yeah, that voice changer, that's a really, really weak, pathetic argument, you. Very weak. It makes you look really bad. That's pretty much a lie, Twatson. Pretty much a lie.
I've been joined by Channel Q. Have I got that correct? Is it Channel Q?
Yeah, you can just call me Q. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for being here. Good to see you.
Hi. Good to see you too, Nathan. No flat earthers on here. Just you?
No flat earthers.
Why is YouTube arguing from the chat? Why don't we come in?
You has 1,000 reasons probably why he won't join the chat for the hangout.
Well, he should. Come on in, you. Let's hear you. How was everybody today? Sorry, I don't mean to change the subject, but it's just kind of weird joining a hangout and not being, cordial.
I'm fantastic now that my wife's back, and it's happy. She's not screaming because she's been with me for 5 hours. So I'm delighted now.
Very cute. The baby girl's very cute, Nathan. She's a very happy baby. Congratulations.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some people who aren't very good with their babies, so they're not as cute and happy. Is he doing this all day long, Nathan? This whole debate flat earth thing?
No, not at all. My intention was to run maybe a show in each half of the day. So I get about a variety of different...
time zones?
Say again?
So you can cover all the time zones kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. That was my intention. But this particular stream, I just fired up just to show whoever pawn bombed me that I don't care. So if I'm ruthlessly honest, the other stream would have probably gone on for another half an hour. Then I'd have ended that, and that would have been it for today. But kind of, if in my future Skype messages I get somebody saying, "Oh, Nathan, you got pawn bombed," I'll be like, "Oh, so last show." So that was kind of the reason for firing
I didn't
this
see
one.
that happen. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's not
the risk you take when you put the link out there for the public.
Exactly. That's exactly it. You did. That's the risk you take. But hence, I'm doing it on my backup channel, not my main channel. So there we go. That's why it's on here and not on there.
Are you keeping don't allow it to DVR so that you can edit that out before you post it and all that?
Exactly. So there's no DVR function. So
That's
if and when it happens, you can't rewind and go back and watch it. And once it's killed, so once I hit kill, it then immediately goes to private, so people can't watch it once the stream ends. So they just get black screen. Again, for the same reasons. The bit I forgot to do was there's 3 radar buttons in the camera view that say. This bit's kind of irrelevant now, there's 3 of us here, but if you've got less than 3 people, they'll all be muted once they join. And the other one is that you won't be displayed. In other words, you can't take control of the main picture, so you'd still have the thumbnail with something suspicious going on, but I can just then kick the thumbnail without anybody being able to hear them, because they can't talk and they can't be displayed on the full screen. So I think in future ones, if there's a 2x2 whatever inch thumbnail at the bottom with something pornographic going on, I don't think that's the end of the world. Whereas, you know, if you've got 2 girls, 1 cup, literally 1080 resolution, that's pretty disastrous. But as it was the case, I just ended the stream like I did when it happened on Sun Tracking, and then life goes on. You just start another one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good that you got it set up that way.
Yeah,
I didn't even know you
quite have
could
them
do
all
all
covered.
that. But
Nearly.
do you use OBS or you're just using Hangouts, right?
Both. So what you're talking out is
that's
a
good.
hangout, and then it's just not broadcast. So it was actually P Mars that taught me how to do it. So he was very courteous. I called him up, and it was probably 8:30 in the morning for him, very early, as you can imagine for someone like P Mars. And he was very gracious. He was like, "This is how you do it." It's sort of half awake. But yeah, it's just, I maybe shouldn't say this on air, but I'm going to anyway. There's often more kindness from some of the globe believers than there is from the flat earthers. Can't believe I've said that.
I heard you just making a statement about how you can have globers on the panel and they seem to regulate themselves, but when you have the flat earthers, it's a nightmare. Isn't that what you said?
Pretty much. I had to step in and do a lot more moderation, and at one stage I think there was no globers on the panel at all. It was just flat earthers, and I was constantly having to say, don't talk over each other, don't interrupt, don't swear, you know, which is pretty much it. That's all I've got to interject for, because my only purpose isn't necessarily to persuade anybody of anything here. You know, it's just that everybody gets heard, and when they're talking over each other because they're irate, frustrated, wound up, you can't hear anything. You just hear bits of
Yeah,
things.
why do you think that is, though? Why do you think it is that the globers can communicate and respect each other and the flat earthers can't?
Because their paradigm's not been broken. So when I was in the frame of mind that we lived on a globe, I thought I had everything pretty well figured out. All my ducks were in a row. Now I don't feel that way, so I can completely empathise with people who feel that their world has been shattered. Obviously, you would say, well, it hasn't. It's still exactly as it always was, and that's fair enough. But you know, for me,
Yeah, as a glober, I would have to say that it isn't. They've done it to themselves, and it's all in their head, of course.
yeah,
Because the world isn't flat, and they're just telling themselves that and causing themselves all this undue trauma for no reason. But you know, I am a glober, and I also think that it's kind of a big assumption to make that other people who just because they believe in the globe don't have broken paradigms. By witnessing all of these people who, in 2017, think that the earth is flat and then come to YouTube and basically verbally abuse one another and anyone who opposes their opinions. And you know what I'm saying? So I think that that's kind of paradigm shocking to realize that there's this, you know, tiny little thing about the shape of the earth that's causing all this hostility and conflict.
yeah, very valid point. Again, another
Thank
reason why this show's on, so people can hear things like this. It might not be anybody's consideration that it could all just be in your head. Obviously, I've heard that 100 times, but there might be somebody watching who's literally just come across Mark Sargent's clues and is suddenly on cloud nine in this romantic world of flat Earth, and they haven't got a real idea of what's going on, or haven't heard any of the counter arguments, haven't heard both sides of the story, and then they hear someone like you say, well, it could all just be in your head, and that might be enough to shock somebody out of not believing something, you know, as opposed to, you know, just looking into it. They might fully and wholeheartedly believe it immediately. I don't know. I find that difficult to picture.
I think that most people do. I think that the story of I heard about the flat Earth and I tried to debunk it, but I couldn't is for the most part, in my opinion, is a load of bull crap. I think most people hear about the flat Earth and they just jump right on that train and they don't really spend a lot of time trying to debunk it at first, because I think somehow the flat Earth is answering a lot of questions, but not really giving them a good answer. You know what I'm saying? It's just feeding into what they already want to hear for their paranoia, not to insult anybody, not that their paranoia might not, I'm not illegitimizing anyone's paranoia or distrust in the government or anything like that. I'm just saying that, you know, it kind of fills that void with an answer finally, but I don't think it's the correct answer. And also, I just want to say, hey, YouTube, don't tag me in comments. If you're not willing to come on here and speak to me, I'm not going to acknowledge your comments.
One day, maybe you two will come on. You never know.
It'd be interesting to hear YouTube talk because he's been in the scene for a long time in the chats, making all kinds of outlandish claims and insults to people, yet he never comes and speaks to anyone on any show ever. So it would be very interesting to hear YouTube talk or reveal his identity to some extent and prove that he isn't Mark Sargent or somebody, not to be, not to stir the pot or to cause any problems. I'm just saying, who knows who YouTube really is?
Mark Sargent's the luckiest man on earth. Everybody.
Is he now?
Well,
I doubt
yeah.
that very much. I've seen Mark Sargent, and he doesn't look like the luckiest man on earth to me.
I meant in just this respect that he's constantly getting publicity. That's a very narrow, luckiest man on earth, but you know what I mean.
I don't know. Publicity, there's only 48 people here watching. And everybody here is already aware of who Mark Sargent is. So I wouldn't necessarily count this as publicity. Sorry, I have a impediment. Sometimes I can't say things.
That's all right. I see all of it as good publicity, regardless of the number of the people that are actually watching right now. The fact that he's on your lips in the first instance means that you know about him, which is good news for him.
Yeah, I know a lot about Mark Sargent, actually.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Probably is.
Feel free.
Oh, I'm not going to say anything because that's not why I came on, was to say anything about anybody like that. I thought that maybe I could have a discussion with a flat earther about flat earth, the debate. The other day I was watching, you had Zoe on, and maybe Lewis was on, and I was kind of in the chat, and I was kind of, saying things in the chat, and I would have came on except for I was currently doing a ambulatory EEG for my epilepsy, and I didn't think it was a good idea for me to come on because I tend to get passionate in the middle of a debate. So I was hoping today maybe somebody would come on and debate me, but all we've got is YouTube, and we know he's not going to come on. I believe the green Timmy is a fake Timmy, just for the record.
Just let Brenda in. Just give me a sec.
Oh, Brenda. Hello, Brenda. I like Brenda. Hope she's not mad at me for that comment. I mean, I was only joking, but if she is, I'll apologize.
You're on mute at the moment, Brenda.
Oh, yeah, I was busy. Sorry.
Hello, Brenda.
And I sort of invited a friend, Eric.
All are welcome. Is this Eric? Good to see you.
He's not terribly familiar with
So if you're on a mobile device, Eric, just tap the screen and it will show you a row of icons along the bottom of the screen, and one of them will be a mute button. If you're on a desktop, just hover your mouse over the Hangout page and it will show you a row of icons at the top.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
We certainly can. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Now I just need to figure out how to make it push to talk so that you guys aren't going to get a horrifying echo from me. I don't actually think that's a feature, I guess.
Nope. You got to mute your microphone if you want it muted.
Yeah, I can fix this with headphones. One moment.
Cool.
Right, I'm going to say to mute. If you make a decent argument from the chat, I'll read it out, because we've already had one of the guests that said they're not going to address you, and at the moment you're not even making points. But if you do, I'll happily read them out, and the chances are, because I've verbalised them, they may get addressed. So, pop a good flat earth point in there and I'll read it.
Yeah, you could make an argument that would be a change of pace.
It would.
I'd like to hear something other than agent.
Well, right now he's calling us stupid and saying we don't have brains, but
That's because he
I don't
can't
know.
understand.
I don't know why I would be an agent. Why an agent like me would be sitting in a crappy little one bedroom apartment.
See, this is what I wanted. So I came here looking for people who are flat earthers, because I just want to hear, you know,
Okay, so
want to hear what's up.
well, Ute's got a point, so let's hit. I'll read his point and then you can challenge it. So it says, Nathan, you can't be moving with the orbit at 12 a.m. and against the orbit at 12 p.m. It not be a speed change between the times. I've said this over and over. Blah blah blah. There you go. There's his point. Feel free to address it.
Wait, repeat that.
It's just in the side chat. If maybe I've got it up. It says, you can't be moving with the orbit at 12 a.m. and against the orbit at 12 p.m. It not be a speed change between the times. Maybe it means and there not be a speed change between the times, I think he means.
What
First
is?
thing I need to point out, it's been answered ad nauseum. Just to make that clear.
I'm confused by that statement. Is he what does he mean by that? Is he conflating the rotation of the Earth with the orbit of the Earth?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So he means to say when we're facing away from the sun, that puts us in opposition to the orbit, but that the orb, the sphere of the Earth is one object orbiting. Doesn't matter which way it's facing. It's not going opposite to the orbit just because the sun or the Earth has rotated away from the sun for the continent that you are currently standing on. One doesn't have anything to do with the other.
Yeah, that's like how we only see the one side of the moon, because the moon is tidally locked to the Earth, so it doesn't rotate. It always, one side always faces the Earth.
That is the answer, YouTube. That is the answer. The answer is that the rotation of the Earth does not affect the orbit of the Earth in any way to cause speed change or opposition to orbit. You are misunderstanding and posing a question that is not, I don't know, it's conflated.
Is there a chat I'm not seeing?
Yes, if you go to the watch page and mute it so you don't get an echo, you can watch the chat, or you can pop the chat out and watch it over the Hangout if you want.
Totally, I'll try to figure
So
that out.
get off of the Hangout, just open another tab and go to the Nathan's channel here and put that page up with this show on it, but make sure you mute it because you'll get echo otherwise.
Oh, okay, on YouTube. Got it. Okay.
Okay.
I'll just put it through my headphones.
Yeah, you should do that too.
What's the channel for Nathan?
Just Nathan
is
space
Nathan
Oakley,
Oakley.
or if you type into a search on YouTube, Flat Earth Debate, it should throw it up as a live stream.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Brenda linked that already, so that's good.
Give a quick plug. So if you are new to this channel, Nathan Space Oakley, which is actually my backup channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you're new to Nathan Oakley, be sure to subscribe to my main channel by clicking on the link in the info box below this video, and subscribe to my main channel where you can see views from myself, interviews and vlogs. If you'd like to join this panel, there is also a link in the info box to join the show and air your views live. Obviously, if you were a flat earther right now, you'd be up against some stiff opposition, but any views are welcome, be it concave, be it flat earth, hollow earth, or regular old boring heliocentric. You're all welcome to express your views, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my plug over.
Oh, there's 50 people here. Cool.
So what's going on today?
YouTube, how many times do we have to tell you? No one is saying O plus R equals O minus R. Get off of that. That's absurd. Nobody is saying that they equal each other. They're saying it's a stupid equation that you come up with.
That orbit and rotation are like causally related. Yeah, totally. So okay, so that's what they mean. So that's orbit and rotation, right?
Yeah, that's what he means by O plus R, O negative R.
Oh yeah. Well, they just got nothing to do with each other. I mean, as you already stated, I don't want to be redundant.
I find that YouTube especially, he conflates things to come up with questions that don't really make sense. The way he poses the question, it's an unnecessary question, and he's just speaking from a point of misunderstanding. And then he forces it, over and over again on people, and then people explain that to him, and then he says that's not an answer, and says that people don't have brains. But what he needs to do is he needs to go and find out that orbit has nothing to do with rotation.
One thing that I suppose that he's never done is just like go to a city that's next to a body of water and like just take a ferry like across that body of water and then watch the city sink into the ocean.
Could we please get Ute on here? I really want to talk to him.
I would very much like to talk to him too, Nick, but I don't know if he would ever. He's never, so he's not likely to.
I've explained this point a lot of times, and it's quite a simple misunderstanding, but I mean, he just doesn't seem to accept that I've answered it. I don't care whether he thinks I'm right or not, but he just won't accept that I've actually attempted to explain it.
I mean, if the planet had, let's say, like I don't know, like a rudder or something on one side, maybe that would change the orbit, but it doesn't. It's just one like smooth, solid sphere, and it's always traveling around the sun, and it's always rotating continuously.
He seems to have this idea that the speed of the Earth's rotation, velocity that changed, the speed remains constant. It's just the velocity.
Yes, because he doesn't understand why we can't feel these motions, why we don't feel the orbit of the Earth, and why we don't feel the rotation. And he obviously doesn't understand how very tiny he is compared to the size of the Earth and the size of this orbit.
I mean, the force that we feel should only act towards the center of the Earth. Like, there's no sideways kind of force. And I also worked it out once to be about 2.5 newtons. And if you compare that to the average human's weight, which is about 750 newtons, that's tiny. I don't see how you expect to be able to notice that. That's like carrying an extra 2 or 3 coins on you. It's not really a noticeable difference, but you do technically feel it. It's just very, very hard to discern from your own weight.
Well, do you actually feel it? Because it's not like that we're accelerating in rotation.
No, you are accelerating technically because we're going in a circle. So although we're not changing our actual speed, the direction is changing, and we do feel that. But because we're spinning so slowly, it's tiny. It's basically, I think I worked it out to be between 2 and 2.5 newtons. And as I said, if you compare that to the average human's weight, that's probably a 200th of it or something. So it's very hard to feel. It's like carrying.
What about Nick? What about free fall?
Free fall.
Orbit.
What?
What? This 2.5 newtons you're talking about? Are you factoring in free fall?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
As opposed to a, let's say, a powered trajectory.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not really sure, but I would say that if you had found some way to accelerate up at exactly 9.81 meters per second squared, then you would probably feel it. But that's the only circumstance. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure in free fall.
The acceleration felt
like
by somebody on Earth, felt by the Earth.
Rotating Earth, but
we're talking about the gravity.
I'm not sure.
Gravity of the sun, not the gravity of Earth here. Because the
gravity of the sun.
Oh no, we're okay. I'm talking about the rotational velocity. Yeah, you have an acceleration there, and it changes dependent upon your latitude and all that. Yeah, that's true. Hey Nathan, I don't know if you've noticed the YouTube account in chat. It's pretty vile. of like banned words and stuff. I'm lost as to why that dude's allowed to.
I just lagged really badly. If you asked me a question, sorry, I didn't hear it.
Oh,
Is you the person that you guys are talking to? Because
Well,
like
yeah,
There are
two of them.
two.
like baby
There are
jizz.
two YouTubes. One YouTube would not be the legitimate YouTube. He'd be a person
Oh.
impersonating him in order to say these crass things that he's saying.
It's why.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
It's why I brought it up.
Yes, curved. But I think Eric is new to this whole, so he wouldn't know why that was happening probably.
I'm
He's
brand new. I
probably-
don't know anyone here.
Yeah, you
Oh
wouldn't
no,
know
I'm
about
talking to you.
what we call
I'm
sock
talking-
accounts, which would be an account that is created under a false identity in order to, do that sort of, we call it trolling.
Yeah. No. That concept I get, because I was like, wait, is this guy just like some dude from like 4chan just talking about like baby? Okay, well yeah, that makes sense. It's two different
There's
ones.
two of them, yeah. You can tell them by their picture. I think they have different pictures, maybe.
No, I think they
Slight
have
difference.
oh yeah,
There's a slight
very
difference.
slight.
I don't want to point out what the difference is because I'm certain it's inappropriate.
I don't actually see it, but I imagine so.
Okay, so real quick, Nick, I thought that when you mentioned the 2.5 newtons or whatever you figured it out to be, were you
Yeah.
talking about the orbit or the rotation there?
The rotation of the Earth.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I thought you were referring to the orbital speed causing
Well,
that.
would
and-
you? Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Well, so is it the rotational speed that you're feeling, or is it the Earth like shifting on its axis?
The
not
rotational, the actual Earth spinning.
The Earth isn't really shifting on its axis to feel to begin with.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
to
we
any
wouldn't
appreciable degree. And very
I don't think we would
slowly
actually
over a
feel
very
the-
long time.
we wouldn't feel the force through the motion around the sun because that's being exerted on the Earth itself and not us. We're merely like in the reference frame of the Earth on its surface as if it's stationary.
Well, because you can't actually like feel how fast you're going, especially on like a large celestial body, unless you're accelerating. Because if you're going like the same speed, then relative to you, you're just standing still. So, which which part is the 2 newtons?
That's the actual Earth orbiting on its rotating on its own axis every 24 hours.
Okay, but but the Earth is always rotating though.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, so you're experiencing like
That 2.5 newtons is constant. It's just so small compared. It's essentially negligible. You won't be able to discern from it and your own weight.
yeah, because we're on a sphere, so we're rotating and getting pushed outwards. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, that was an anti-science confusion I had.
Apparently, I debate better when I'm drunk. Yeah, okay, Rick.
Everybody debates better when they're drunk.
I don't.
I'm just kidding.
I know, but I just want to point it out. I don't do anything better when I'm drunk, and that is exactly why I don't drink.
Maybe I should say everybody thinks they debate better when they're drunk.
Well, that's more accurate, I would assume.
So, Brenda, I think you told me about this earlier, but I kind of forgot. So what was the what's the argument against like the city sinking in the water after you travel away from it?
Oh boy.
Typically perspective, right? Or refraction.
Oh yeah, that it's a mirage. Yeah. That's what it was.
Typically that's the explanation used. And that can be true in some cases.
The mirrored reflection layer. That's
This
one.
is so interesting.
Yes, I actually have a question for flat earthers since they want to use this. There is no gravity, it's buoyancy and density. So things fall because they are heavier or denser than the air that's around them. So first of all, I wonder why things don't go left or right, because there's a chance that the air could be less dense left or right. Why do they always choose up or down? Up in the case of a helium
I
balloon,
thought of
and down. And
some,
also,
like,
here
1
is
kilogram.
my ultimate question. If it's a gradient, level of air density, and it's denser closer to the surface of the Earth, when an airplane climbs to 30,000 feet and the air is thinner, how come it doesn't continue to rise if there is nothing to keep it from, if the air is no longer, thick enough to hold the airplane down? You see what I'm saying? It's a hard to pose a logical question to an illogical presumption, but that's the best I can do. How does the airplane not continue to rise through the thinner and thinner and thinner air?
Well, what do you mean? It can't rise because due to the nature of the buoyancy factor, right?
It's what?
It would be too dense to rise, right?
What would be too dense to rise?
The plane.
The air's the only thing holding it down, according to the buoyancy density argument that flat earthers have, that the reason why things fall is because they're denser than the air. So how does the airplane stay up? Because it's always denser than the air, and how does it not continue to rise? And how is it that things always choose up or down and never left or right?
That would be aerodynamics. You know what I mean? But
You can't just say aerodynamics without explaining.
Hold on. In the same stroke, I'd say to you, how come there's an admitted height that planes can't get to? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm saying in the sense of like, if like, you're saying that it can't escape the field of gravity and that's why it can't go that higher. I mean, isn't that it's generally accepted that because of the lack of density of air that planes can't go up? That's like a pretty much accepted notion. I mean, that's why you have to use rockets.
That's only works. That's on the globe Earth, not on a flat Earth.
Yeah. Well, it's all the same set of facts. It's just an interpretation of the facts. Yeah, it is, right? I mean, we're all dealing with the fact that, like, the way the sun looks is how the sun looks, but our interpretation of how and why that's happening, that's up for debate.
So I get what you're saying, kind of, but doesn't the ability to rise and fall based upon density need gravity in order for something to rise and fall?
Yes, gravity would be the other half of the equation mathematically in buoyancy and density, but they like to just remove gravity from that equation and say it doesn't exist, and that therefore it's only that things are more dense than the air that is the reason why they fall, or less dense than the air, and that's the reason why they rise.
Well, take for instance, like, did you guys see Phuket Word's video with the oils and the water, and how he had like the water was going through? Like it was like if the like what he was proposing, that if there were gravity, right? He was saying how come there was this water that could permeate. It was cold water could permeate the oil and go below the oil. And so the thing was that if oil is inherently more dense, then how is it possible that cold water could get below it due to the nature of gravity? Because gravity would be sucking, pulling in
which is more dense.
I'm just saying.
The oil is more dense than the water. But that's the same question I'm asking with the airplane, Isa.
Well, no, my thing is that why wouldn't, and what he was proposing, and I agree, that's what I'm saying, we're dealing with the same set of facts, but alternative explanations, like, I mean, well, not really alternative, because you're inevitably going to go to buoyancy and the rest of it. Now, mathematically, I understand that there is gravity that's put into certain equations, right?
Well, there's gravity put into the equation of gravity, and there's gravity put into the equation of buoyancy and density.
Right. And that's what I'm referring to, because we're talking about buoyancy and density. So we're talking about the idea that you're proposing, like, there's a gravitational number in the formula to solve the question of buoyancy or something. Right?
Hey, quick point of order.
Technically, it's buoyancy and density over gravity is the equation.
Point of order.
Right. Yeah.
Oil. I don't know what oil you're talking about, but typically oil is less dense than water. So let's get that part straightened out first.
Oil is less dense than water?
Yes.
Correct.
Let me look it up.
It depends on the oil.
Oil,
Yeah,
I'm going to write this, less dense than water.
That's why it floats.
It's less dense than water, yeah.
Yep, oil is more. Yep, no, you're right. Oil is more dense than alcohol,
Yeah.
but less
Cold
less,
water.
but less dense than water. The molecules that make up the oil are larger than those that make up water, so they cannot pack as tightly together as the water molecules can. They take up more space per unit area and are less. Cool.
Yeah. And cold water is more dense than warm water. So that's why cold water would be typically on the bottom and warm water near the top of the ocean.
So it wouldn't have anything. So that wouldn't have anything to do with gravity then.
No, it has everything to do with gravity because
Gravity causes them to move.
Yeah, so like
Without gravity, they
different-
have no intrinsic reason to separate.
Gravity is the
Yeah.
reason why these things go down.
No one has
Left to
ever
right.
established the motive force of density and stuff.
Yeah, I mean Newton's first law says that nothing will move unless a force is acted on it, and
Well,
density alone is not a force.
Well, I think
Density
we're
is
getting a little
just
too
characteristic.
esoteric with that rebuttal. What I'd like to say is what I'd like to ask at least is why would something go up or down based upon how dense it is according to the flat Earth argument, where there's no gravity?
Well, I think because inherently there would be what we experience as an up and a down. Like if like it's like if you lie down on your bed, you feel the difference of your body weight. You know what I mean? It's like and so there's just this. It's just something that it's like almost like math. It's almost just it is that way.
So how would you
You know what I
feel
mean? Like,
that?
it's just
How do you feel that difference if there's no gravity?
Well, the thing is that gravity hasn't been proven or anything. That's the thing. It's like it's a gravitational theory. Like like it's not something. It's something that's almost ethereal.
So then what's the flat Earth explanation for things going up or down based upon how dense they are?
Electromagnetism.
Okay, why can't electromagnetism cause water to conform to the exterior of the globe?
Well, that's too esoteric. We gotta keep it real simple for this.
Okay, if that is his reason why things fall down and why water levels out, then why can't that occur on a globe? What about a globe?
No, it's not that I can't. It's not that I can't. It's just I don't experience it. I don't see it. It's not something that it's like you're by asking me to say, or if I were to believe that it's a globe, I'd be going against what I experience, right?
All right, so
No.
you're not saying water cannot curve around a sphere.
Yeah, I'm not saying
globe.
it can't. I'm not saying. I look at it like this. I'm saying it can't. Much the same way I'm saying that, Santa Claus can't fucking get hookers. It's like I don't
Simple
fucking know. I
observation.
can't prove it. I can't prove it. You know what I mean? Like so. It's something where it would have to be shown to me that is the case versus me just saying that's the case. I understand what you're proposing. I don't think it's an impossibility.
But I would argue that you could prove it, Issa, if you took the time and you studied and you would, you tried to curve water over a sphere. I'm certain that you could find a way to do it, and the scientists could find a way to do it if they applied the proper knowledge and the proper methods to it. But you're not really trying to curve water over a sphere. You're just arguing that density and buoyancy exists without gravity.
Yeah, I didn't get to the whole sphere. Like curved water brought in the whole spherical thing. I think that's ludicrous anyway, based on the dielectric inertial plane of what we consider to be the Big Bang. But that's my world. The thing is that I think that it's like, if it's to believe that we live on a ball, then it's like there would have to be proof to get me outside of my own position from what I experience.
And what would that proof have to be? We'd have to send you to outer space.
You know what? I couldn't say.
Could we send you into outer space and you see the shape of the Earth for yourself?
Maybe,
Or
how about this?
would
How
you
about
believe
Channel
that?
Q? Hold on, Channel Q.
Can
Maybe
you just call
something
me
like
Q?
that. Okay, Q. Like maybe something like that. But I would say that that's not good. Maybe I don't think going to happen in my time. And I think the idea is that it's not going to be like mathematics that's going to get me to change what I experience.
Well, again,
I
Issa, I would
you.
propose that it could happen in your lifetime. Again, if you studied and applied yourself to the proper methods, you could easily become an astronaut just like anyone else who lives in America, and you could see that in your lifetime, but
We
you
don't. We
don't.
don't have to send this guy to space. He doesn't have to be a mathematician. There's some really
No, I'm
easy
just
like
asking
things
him
you can
what would
do.
constitute proof for him personally, not exactly, we could
Of
do a lot
course.
of things on Earth to prove it, but
Why are you
So-
so riled up,
proof
Q?
for
Why are you
him.
so riled up?
So
Right?
flat Earth. So you think that there's that. So with the very simple example of like, do you know the example of the cities disappearing under the water, like they're sinking as you travel away from them?
Okay, yeah, perspective.
Perspective. Okay, so how does that work with perspective? Because perspective wise, obviously they're not actually sinking underwater. You're just seeing the curvature of the Earth make them look like they're sinking under the water. That's
Well,
perspective.
And how are
So
you
what's
not
your perspective being on a
Well,
flat Earth?
how are you not certain that it's not just atmospheric conditions?
What kind of atmospheric conditions
take
would
it
make
like this,
that
like, buddy,
happen?
check it out. Maybe you're under a rock. If you go on the Weather Channel, it'll tell you see like visibility. You can check that. Right? I mean, like, or unless you don't have TV or cable or something. I don't know.
Visibility,
Visibility.
but the city is actually from your perspective on a boat. The city is literally sinking into the ground, like it's disappearing.
Well, I mean, are you an artist? Do you draw pictures? Do you know about do you know about?
I've dabbled in kindergarten.
Okay, well, I'm saying, okay, well, maybe that's why you don't understand the laws of the perception, the way that it's going to go. What happens is that it appears as though that when something's getting away from you, that it's getting smaller. It's like if I look, a mile away and I can see my friend on his bike.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he's actually 3 inches tall, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, right, okay.
So that's what I'm saying. The city isn't actually sinking. I mean, obviously, but it looks like it's sinking, and the reason it looks like it's sinking is because the Earth is spherical. So the farther you travel away from it, the more you're traveling around the globe, and it's just lower. And then the water gets in the way because the water bulges out between you and the city. Obviously, it's not actually sinking. That's perspective. The perspective is that it's sinking. In reality, it just looks like it's sinking for that reason.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So what is
Hold on, you're sure? Hold on, wait. So you're certain about something? It's an optic anomaly that nobody can prove.
Well, so
I'm so glad. Nice to meet you, bud.
What's your explanation for that happening? Is what I'm asking.
Well, it would be like, let's say, like, I mean, I have my footage on my channel, but I'll spare us. Is the idea that, like, let's say if I'm zoomed in on a sailboat that's say 6-7 miles away from me, and I'm tight, and I look at that let's say the top of that sailboat was Polaris, right? For instance, so we'll get 2 birds with 1 stone with this one. So like if the top of that sail is Polaris, now as I pull away from that angle, and as the sailboat kind of like it shortens up and kind of it goes into what it's like it's going into the horizon, and as I pull back, it looks as though you can't see that boat because of the curve of the Earth, right? So the point is, now if I'm zoomed in on that boat and the top of that mast is Polaris, right? I could be said to almost be at like a certain level of latitude north. And then as I zoom away, and now as the top of the sailboat, it goes and shrinks into the horizon, it could be said like that I was at the equator. And then as I continue to go back and it appears that I can no longer see the boat or the mast or any of it, then that would be to say that I'm below the equator. So but
the city in the example isn't getting smaller and then disappears. You can still see it perfectly fine. It's just sinking below the surface of the Earth. Well, I mean, because you can still see the top of the city, but the bottom of the city has completely disappeared.
Right, bro. And I get it. You've been living on a ball the whole time. The thing is is that what I'm saying is that if you look at it from this alternative perspective, it's the same set of facts,
But
it's a
that's not.
different-
But
it's a
that's not an
different-
alternative perspective. The city is sinking. It's not getting smaller and disappearing. Like it's actually physically sinking.
I
So
know
how
you
can
think
you explain that?
well, I know you think that, but what
No,
I'm
no,
saying is
no,
that
no,
it's
not
due to-
actually physically. It appears to be sinking. Why would it appear to be sinking if we lived on a flat Earth?
It's called atmospheric conditions and angle of incidence. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's what happens is that as you're looking at this particular, from whatever your height is, you're looking at a certain thing, and there is going to be possibly magnification. There could be, depending on the heat of the weather. It depends. Like, there's a whole set of variables of what we call atmospheric conditions. And that's where it appears to look as though it's in some, that it's like, it's covered, or that it's like incomplete in some way, because if there's some kind of I forget the type of maybe if Nathan's there, it's like there's some kind, it's I forget the name of it, but there's an element of refraction that allows for the bottom layer to appear to obfuscate the what you're trying to see behind it. It's due to the nature and the distance. And because you have optics and what do you call it? I think it's called like zonal. I think I know. Actually, LSC was all about it. It's zonular. I can't forget the name of it. But the way that the eye works, it won't see past a certain distance. Never mind the elements of the weather and, like we said, the atmospheric conditions. This does not confirm or deny the ball Earth or the flat Earth, man. This is what needs to be accepted.
So what you're saying is that on the ground, there's some sort of like mirage that just makes it look like the city's sinking. That makes it look like the city's sinking instead of the Earth being round.
And that's what we have evidence of. Yes.
That's
That's what I'm proposing. And and the idea is that I have examples on my videos. I'm not on my computer at the moment, but I was doing it the other day even where I show that I have particular one set of footage where there's a boat, and as another boat is crossing in front of it, there's a wall of water that is created optically, that appears to be that now the bottom of the boat is disappeared, and this effect is what I think is happening as to why people think that they're witnessing the curve, and it's something that. Like, again, it doesn't confirm or deny. I don't want to condemn heliocentrics, as this argument has always seems to, go around. My thing is that it doesn't confirm or deny either one of the models, and this is where it becomes a personal choice. It's about what do you experience, man.
So can you think of some sort of like experiment that we could do to see who is correct on that?
Yeah,
Well, I think
there was actually a good question that came up in the chat where somebody wants to know, Isa, if you can say this, that the moon is clearly farther away from us than any boat or any city that you're looking at from a shoreline, correct?
Allegedly.
Okay, so then how come perspective doesn't change the moon or affect your ability to see the moon? How come you can still see the moon even though it's much further out of what you claim to be perspective?
Hey, that's your problem, because the point is, how can I see?
That's my problem. No, it's a question I'm asking you to answer. Shouldn't you be trying to explain flat Earth to me, or am I just supposed to assume that it's flat and just walk around and say that it's flat? Please just explain to me.
Here's the thing.
How you would say that I can see the moon.
Are you going to answer? Are you going to let me answer?
I am going to let you answer. You said it was my problem.
It is. So the thing is this, or it's your model's problem. The thing is this, is that it's like, how can I see a meteor or a crater that's 43 miles apart from Earth at 237,000 miles away, but I can see a fucking crater that's 43 miles apart? Are you serious?
Yeah, because it's really big.
That's not my question, though.
No, right. Well,
so when you're looking at Earth from space, you can see like a bunch of really tiny islands that are like way smaller.
Hey, bro, if that's good enough for you, I mean, I think I got a bridge to sell you too, bud. Are you?
Okay.
Hold on. Are you
So
no, actually, Isa, we've got a bridge to sell to you.
So here's a
how witty of you. How witty of you.
That you can do yourself. Do you live in? Hey, flat Earth person, do you live in like California?
Well, how could I live anywhere but my body, right?
Totally. I know. I get that. That's very philosophical
Mm.
of an answer. I'm impressed. But what? So do you? So because one thing you can do in the Bay Area, it like look at San Francisco from Oakland, not Sausalito, but like Oakland, and then you can because there's big buildings in Oakland. So what you can do is you can look at San Francisco like partially disappeared under the horizon. Then you can go up like a really tall building, and you can see more of San Francisco because you're higher, a little bit more, but more.
Yeah,
can
no,
do that.
that's a childish fucking idea, my brother. The thing
Well,
is
you
that
can
if
do
I've
that.
already-
It's just a
look at it like
very
this.
easy
Look at
thing
it like this,
to
man.
do.
If I was on a basketball court, right?
Yeah.
And let's say it's like, or let's say even a football field.
Yep.
Okay. And I have my face to the grass.
Totally.
Okay. Now, if someone is standing over on the other side of the end zone, right, I might not be
Yes.
able to see them due to the nature of the fact that the grass is in front of me in the foreground.
Yeah. And in this
Okay,
case,
so
the
hold on.
water on the spherical Earth
All right,
is
yeah.
in the way.
Right, and we're dealing with
And then you're getting above it.
and this is what I'm, right, in a flat football field. Okay, so if I get on a ladder and go to the top of the ladder, couldn't it be agreed that I'm going to see a lot further down the football field?
No, totally. So
okay, hold on. So why do
here's what
you
can
hold on?
do.
No. Hold on one sec, bro. So how does that not apply to you saying to me, go climb up a mountain and you can fucking see other buildings?
No, you can just take an elevator.
Exactly. I could just take it out. Exactly. Or
No,
fucking
I
could ride a bike.
I totally get what you're saying. No, I totally get what you're saying, man. Don't even fret. But here's something that you can do. You can, but very very directly, you can like use some sort of device to look really far, and you can see like, or rather, how about you can get like a laser. Like a laser that's just strong enough in order to travel and be read by long distances, and set up like a receiver on the other side that you shine the laser at. And so you can point the laser directly across the ocean, and then if there's no water in the way on a spherical Earth, then the laser will hit the receiver, and you can calibrate that laser, like where it's pointing on the top of the building. So you can go to the top of the building, point the laser, you know how high the building is, so you can just adjust it appropriately, and then just fire that laser across the water, and then see if the water hits it. And then there you go, flat Earth, or round Earth specifically.
Well, what about the idea of they use radar and they have what's called over the horizon shots, and they say that it's like it has to be the optimal conditions, and like but the thing is that it's always like it always works, it never doesn't work. I've got a friend of mine who was saying how he used to fire like radar and like all these kinds of stuff that would continuously carry on, or even like from low range different boats and missile systems. Everything is like from a 2-inch perspective. It's not dealt with from too much of a. I mean, those are other ideas, but there's a whole bunch of ideas that give us the notion that there is a flat, level plane that is being dealt with in the coordinate systems and in the way that these operating systems work.
Well, if you're going to talk about coordinate systems, anything needs to take into account the spherical Earth. Like,
right, well,
even
actually, hold on.
If you're shooting really far, you have to take into account the rotation. I mean, not the rotation.
Well,
you have to take it into account the curvature of the Earth.
You probably don't shoot guns, do you?
Yes, and specifically shots where you do have to take in that kind of rotation.
So you shoot guns regularly?
Well, I mean, not regularly.
Right, but like so I'm saying, like, have you are you a sniper? You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Well,
know.
I mean, that's the shot.
Yeah, I understand, but the thing is that that's a hard. It's hard to find somebody who's using that Coriolis fucking number. Like, what I'm saying is that, like, even for fox hunters and the rest of it, nobody's taking into account Coriolis.
Well, yeah, because
how far
you
away do
don't
you
need
shoot
to.
a fox?
Yeah,
How far
it's
away is
like
the fox?
100 feet.
No, you're right. Hey, if you're doing,
and also, why do you ask people if they're a sniper if you don't want people to ask you if you're a scientist? It's not really legit.
Not a scientist.
Did I say anything like that? What do you mean?
Said, "Are you a sniper?" Like as if to discredit his credibility. But your credibility is not that you are a scientist or a geoengineer or anything like that. So, I mean, what does it matter if he's a sniper or not? He could have a knowledge of guns and mathematics that are applied to guns for the Coriolis effect without being a sniper, just as you can have a knowledge of flat Earth, even though you're not a scientist.
I mean,
Fair
I think the conceit is that, of course, he's not a scientist, because any sort of even basic knowledge on the subject requires you to know that the Earth is round.
Do you see how like much hubris you have? Do you ever heard of Alhazen? There's a quote about the scientific method. You must be familiar with it, right?
Have you ever heard of
Hold on, let's read this.
Herodotus? No, I know. I'm hubris, and I'm buying into the Jewish Illuminati and stuff.
Did you just say Herodotus?
Is it Herodotus?
Would you start reading books a week ago? What's going on, man? Hold on
No.
one sec. Let's do this quote. Hold on.
Oh, so far you've asked this guy if he lives under a rock, asked him if he's an artist, then called his point childish, and now you just
I know, I'm the
continue.
worst.
Can you deal with the insulting?
Hold on. Let me finish the quote. Let me read the quote for you, brother, if you haven't heard this, okay? Just so you know. So this should cue you in how and why I feel when there is certain elements of hubris, how disingenuous it really does come across as. Check it. Okay. So this is from Alhazen. And he's one of the founders of this idea of the scientific method. The seeker after the truth is not one who studies the writings of the ancients and following his natural disposition puts his trust in them, but rather the one who suspects his faith in them and questions what he gathers from them. The one who submits to argument and demonstration and not to the sayings of a human being whose nature is fraught with all kinds of imperfection and deficiency. Thus, the duty of the man who investigates the writings of scientists, if learning the truth is his goal, is to make himself an enemy of all that he reads, and applying his mind to the core and margins of its content, attack it from every side. He should also suspect himself as he performs his critical examination of it, so that he may avoid falling into either prejudice or leniency.
Right, which is what you fail to do. You fail to critically examine it, and then you do fall into a bias and a prejudice, Isa, with this flat Earth. So the end of that quote sums up exactly what you've done to not.
I think Q,
because you have not immersed yourself in the knowledge.
Who am I to disabuse you of that notion and say that you aren't projecting?
Well, you're accusing me of not following this, and I'm just saying that's hypocritical of you because you're not following that either. Because you've not immersed yourself in the knowledge of astrophysics or any of these types of subjects in order to, be the enemy of them. You just you're just the Earth is flat, and that makes me an enemy of these things. But you're holding to a prejudice and a bias, which at the end of that quote, it warns against doing, by not immersing yourself in the proper study of and knowledge of these things.
Do I not often concede points when I'm mistaken? Do I not? You know what I mean?
I don't understand.
If you did that,
why it has to become about people or personalities, or you I or him, or whether or not we live under a rock, or whether or not we just started reading books. These are the points that you are making towards us, instead of making your claims to what it is that we're asking you about buoyancy and density and why it chooses up or down.
Right, and I was saying, I gave an answer.
Or
it's
why
not acceptable.
It is that the city sinks below the curvature of the Earth.
We already discussed that. We did. That's what we were talking about, refraction and all the rest of it. But we're dealing with the same set of facts, and all we're going to do is come to different.
And why it is if the moon is so far out of perspective that you can still see a crater on it, even though you can't see that boat. Or why, when you shoot a gun, you have to take into effect the Coriolis effect, and a fox is not far enough away from you, probably, to need the Coriolis effect.
You're not going to shoot a fox from 5 miles away. That seems unnecessary.
So at what point do you not take it, or what point would you say that you take into account the Coriolis insurance? At what distance? Or the Coriolis?
Here, I can look that up real quick. 1 moment.
It's going to be miles.
Yeah, actually miles. Yeah, this will take me a second. Keep talking about them.
So how come did planes take into account Coriolis?
Yes.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
I mean, planes have to navigate around the spherical Earth, so to get to point A to point B.
All right, man.
I mean, they're traveling sometimes
Yeah, well,
thousands of miles.
it's actually it's in its own in their own thing. It's built to fly over a stationary plane. It's in the makeup of the makeup of the system. It's part of the patent.
Engage him while I look this up. I can't
part of
talk
the
about
patent.
it.
But yeah, man. I mean, really, it's about opening your head up to an alternative answer to the same set of facts. That's what this is about. You know what I mean?
Well, our claim is that it's not an answer.
No, I know you guys have no juice to move, so it's all good.
Yeah, we do have juice.
I got you.
We got the
Yeah,
mojo.
it's important to challenge the things that people tell you and check for their validity, but it's also important to be honest about the answers you get and not just have a personal choice, as you put it, to disregard all of that, to hold on to a bias that may be misdirecting you in life.
Right, and maybe your bias is holding on to the heliocentric model that you've got, right? Maybe you're too indoctrinated. You don't question your own You don't question your own.
I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't make that assumption about me just to put me in a box so that you
I'm just saying that's what you're
dismiss my point.
Actions speak louder than words.
What are my
That's what you're
actions?
doing.
What are my actions just because I feel that there's enough scientific evidence that I can discover for myself and study for myself that makes me understand and know that I live on a sphere? What action am I doing?
I'm just saying, if you're not questioning yourself, right? You know what I mean? If
Well, you're making an assumption that I don't question my doctrination, that I don't question my government, that I don't question myself, that I haven't questioned science.
What? So you admit it's an indoctrination?
I got it. I got the answer, by the way.
You know, Issa, that's very intellectually dishonest and childish of you. No, don't blame you. Don't hold you accountable for your actions, yet hold me accountable for my actions.
Don't engage in that kind of stuff. That's not going to get us anywhere. But I do have the approximate range where you have to take things into account. Okay, I don't think there's an exact thing, but it becomes important at around and beyond 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I found that too.
Yeah.
So how far was it?
1,000 yards.
So it is. So you might be shooting fox, right?
1,000 yards? I mean, probably not. No, not at all.
It'd be pretty small. It'd be a really small, hard to hit target at 1,000 yards.
I mean, yeah, you don't need to shoot a fox from that far.
No, you absolutely do not.
You shoot a person from that far in a war. I mean, at least I assume. I don't know what else you'd be.
Yeah, here you go. I got it right now.
1,000 yards
shooting beyond 1,000 yards. Yeah, it happens. These guys are.
Oh, cool. Okay, so
watch
a video, and then they'll take that into account because the drop at 1,000 yards.
Are you sure that they're going to take it into account?
With a 308, with a muzzle velocity of 2,700.
Hold on, here we go. So we got a 6.5 times 47 using high BC, 140 gram Hornady MX, a superb long-range performer and this efficient cartridge.
140 grams. Do they have the muzzle velocity?
Hold on one sec. The Rabbit was actually at 1,027 yards when we ranged back to the truck from the Rabbit when we picked it up, hence why the first shot was low. It is a hard bank to range accurately at times. He doesn't mention nothing about Coriolis.
Well, because the drop at
I'm just letting you know that it has nothing to do with people that shoot guns at long range.
That's just one example, Issa.
Dude, show me an example where they used it.
Well, I'm trying to tell you, but you won't.
I want to say that's your problem, but I won't.
Sorry, I don't really have much to say here, but Nathan.
Hi, Lewis.
Awake Souls is just straight restreaming your shit.
Yeah, he was doing that yesterday too.
That's it. Hi, Awake Souls. I know you're watching.
Yeah, he was doing that yesterday too. I don't know if Nathan's here, Lewis.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I think he
maybe
said
put a message in the chat to Nathan, maybe.
Okay.
In the Hangout chat.
All right.
He might not care. He might not care.
So Flat Earth person, you still with me? What's your name, by the way?
Yeah.
I can stop calling you Flat Earth person.
He's Issa.
Issa.
Okay, Issa. So, hold on. Let me read this real quick. Okay, so here's an error that you can make when shooting due to the Coriolis effect. So if you don't take it into account, this is talking about East. I'm sorry. Hold on. I need to read this before I talk about it a little bit more. One moment. Sorry.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, but I guess really what I've been in this conversation long enough where I just recognize that, like I said, we're going to come up with the same set of facts in a certain way, and there's just a different interpretation for them. I mean, there's also like 40 to 60 other cosmologies that are available. The accepted model is what it is. That's fine. The thing is that, and I'm trying to understand it more and more every day. But I also think there's alternatives, and those are things that they're just a part of they make up one's philosophy more than anything to me, because I think if you're gonna, like, geocentrism maybe is the more important objective of any of this, is the idea that people really should, in my opinion, recognize that we can't disprove that the world goes around, that the stars, the sun, and the moon go around us, and that we're not special. And this is something that is. Hold on now, Brenda. Like my thing to this is that the idea that for the philosophical value of that outlook, I think is outweighed. It's something that we need to recognize as a possibility, and it hasn't been truly negated or thrown out. I mean, even as much as anyone might like to say, like Brenda, the point is that regardless of, it's like if you're going to tell me that you can't write another song, like there's no way anyone could write like more music. Well, let me be someone to go write a new song and prove you wrong. Because the thing is that those are the things where I understand, but it's taken away, in my opinion, to try and define all of these things that you can't verify. What you're doing is you're lobotomizing the imagination.
Well, here I can show you.
Wait. We're lobotomizing the imagination. Yet we have all of these movies and things that are inspired by these facts of outer space and spheres and such. So I don't think the imagination has been lobotomized at all by the idea of space or the idea of heliocentrism. I think it's very inspiring, and people are very inspired.
That's for you. For me, I don't see it as such. I see it as like a good. You got to be a part of a special club to get on a rocket one day to get out of this turmoil, fucking meaningless rotation around a fucking star that's not even rotating on the great attractor.
But why is that meaningless? And why is that meaningless?
I can't prove that that's right, so I don't go with that outlook.
You don't try to prove that it's right.
It seems like a.
Asa, how can I send you a link?
It seems like the philosophy of cucks. That's what it seems like.
So now you're insulting us. So you just resort to insulting everyone on the panel and calling everybody cucks.
Did I say that? I don't know. Is that what you believe? Is that good enough?
It was inferred.
I don't think.
What? I can't have my opinion.
Well, I mean, you can have an opinion, but if your opinion is insulting to others, they may call you out on that.
Well, call me out on what? You believe something you can't prove, right?
No, I don't believe it. I know it. First of
There
all,
you go. That's called flat Earth.
And I can prove it. It has been
called flat Earth.
You're the one who doesn't want to prove it.
Q, Asa.
You'd be a religious nutcase, man.
Calm down.
Asa.
I'm the religious nutcase. Okay, dude. You're the one over here saying believe.
You can't prove it, and you believe it, and you know it, and you're a fucking religious nutcase if that's the case.
So now I'm a religious nutcase on top of all the other.
You believe something you can't prove, right?
So what should I interpret about the facts of your name calling and your inability to give us any scientific references when all you want to use is interpretation and philosophy and insults to uphold your point of view?
You make it easy, Q. I don't know what to tell you.
I make it easy.
Yeah,
you make it easy, Issa. You make it easy. You are completely falling apart.
Talk about the Coriolis effect, but we're talking about him insulting people. Of course, he's gonna insult people. He's a flat earther.
I'm not gonna insult people.
Well, you're not a flat earther. You don't have.
No. It's not flat earther.
Asa, how can I send you a link? I want to send you a link for
Eric,
fuck's sake.
post it in the side chat on the right.
You can put this link, any link into the side chat. There should be like a little blue chat box. And if you click that, it'll open up a side chat and you can put a link.
Let me guess. Hold on.
That's the exact same
So
thing.
Asa, I just posted a link in the side chat of someone from something called Gunworks demonstrating the Coriolis effect at shots over 1,000 yards. You can go watch that video right there. You can see a example of someone having to account for the curvature of the Earth.
Cool.
So go watch that, then come back.
I'm good, but I'm just saying that's cool.
It's only 5 minutes long. Just watch it. You can read. Don't you want to have your mind open to new possibilities? Go watch it.
Hey man, I sell Coriolis insurance. I'm familiar with it. I got you.
Go watch the video. He's doing it.
I will. I'm on my phone, so I'm not really gonna. But I'll take your word for it, bro. The guy's shooting with Coriolis. I got it. You guys want to believe that shit? That's your philosophy.
Well,
it's not a belief. He just gave you evidence that it's not a belief. It's a fact. A fact that does not require interpretation or philosophy to conflate it. It is a simple fact that a man would fire a gun and need to take into fact.
Prove it wasn't the wind.
With the wind that blows down.
How fast does this wind have to be to affect the bullet?
The wind
Are we talking about shooting a gun in the middle of the biggest and strongest hurricane?
The Coriolis effect is very subtle until you're getting to shots over like 5 miles or something like that.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Winters, product specialist here at Gunworks. Today we're going to go over one of the common issues guys have when collecting data to either build a drop chart or a ballistic compensator like we use on our systems. We field hundreds of calls a month where guys cannot re-verify their data once they've shot it one day and go out and try to return the same data, let's say a week later. And one of the common issues that we see is the Coriolis effect. And what guys are not doing is taking into account the effect that this can have on your shooting at longer ranges. Now, real quick, let's kind of just explain the Coriolis effect in layman's terms. The Coriolis effect is the effect that when the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, it is actually leaving the surface of the earth. So as the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, the earth is still rotating and the bullet is not rotating with the earth. So the earth will actually rotate out from underneath of the bullet while it is in flight. So as the earth rotates, it actually rotates from the west to the east. So what that's going to do to our targets is if you're shooting west, your target's going to rotate up and towards us, which is going to cause the bullets to hit lower. And if you're facing east, the target's going to be dropping and slightly moving away, which is going to cause the hits to be higher. Now, why this is important is out to 1,000 yards, you could have almost a full minute of correction.
Moves relative to the surface of the earth.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hello?
I didn't see who was speaking. I apologise. Just go ahead. I paused it.
The rotation of the earth has no bearing in that respect because the atmosphere rotates with the earth.
It does with a projectile.
So whether it would be the air moving the projectile in one direction, I can understand, but the rotation of the earth, the air is moving relative to it.
The projectile isn't moving with the air.
It's moving through the air.
Correct.
So the rotation of the earth has no bearing on the movement of the projectile as the atmosphere is rotating with the earth.
It has bearing on the movement of the target.
Yes, but it's all relative. So not only does the target move with the rotation of the earth, but also the atmosphere that the projectile is traveling through rotates.
Yeah, and the ultimate word is that through and not with. It's traveling through the atmosphere, not with the atmosphere. And the target is traveling with the earth. So the target is moving away from where it originated.
Yeah, that's why in the beginning of the video, that he says that it's leaving the surface of the earth.
but the surface of the Earth is not spinning and rotating underneath the atmosphere. It is moving as one unit.
Yeah, but it's not about the atmosphere. It's about the speed of the bullet. It's about the way that the bullet's traveling.
Yes, but I can understand that in a vacuum with a moving target and a projectile moving, but the entire atmosphere that the projectile is being shot through is rotating, matching the rotation of the target.
But the target's still moving.
Yeah, so the wind blowing against the bullet in one direction or another. I mean, as you say, the wind's obviously not going to be doing that. So because the atmosphere is moving with everything. So the only thing to consider there is the distance traveled. And so when the Earth is rotating and the target is farther or closer or shifted left or right from wherever you're shooting, that's when you have to take into this account. It's not about the atmosphere specifically. It's strictly about the actual rotation of the Earth. So just don't even think about the atmosphere in relation to this equation.
But surely then you'd have to do the experiment as such in a vacuum if you weren't to take the atmosphere into effect.
Well, I mean, but the thing is that we're seeing the effect based upon the rotation of the Earth. That's why it's different depending on where you shoot it. Because if you shoot it west, or if you shoot it east, or if you shoot it north, or if you shoot it south, you have different effects. So you don't have to. You can see the difference.
I don't understand why we would need to shoot in a vacuum.
Well, yeah, exactly. You don't need to. You can see the difference. If there wasn't a difference, and the test would need to be done in a vacuum, then you wouldn't be seeing the difference based upon the direction of your shot.
So what sort of difference are we talking?
What do you mean?
Enough to throw off the
Alex, are you a flat Earth person? Or are you just having a question about the
Pretty sure he's not.
equation?
Well, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm certainly not an expert on projectiles, but I do hold the belief that the planet is an oblique spheroid.
So the purpose of the video is to inform shooters how to calibrate their sighting on their gun, because it affects how they sight the gun, and they miss targets if they don't account for the Coriolis effect. They will miss their target.
Or they suck at shooting.
Well,
one or the other. One or the other.
They suck at shooting in the same way every time.
Okay.
Not sucking equals not sucking.
Let's just
take
keep
all
watching
factors into account.
Let's just keep watching the video where they do it, and then we can answer some questions there. And specifically, I want to address the flat Earth.
It's not always wise.
Real quick for our friend. What do you call it? How come planes don't have to take into account which way the Earth's spinning when they land?
Yeah, Alex.
Because they're traveling.
I couldn't tell you. I'm certainly not an expert, but I imagine the effects would be sort of infinitesimal in short spaces. Like, I imagine the distance a plane would travel when landing is quite insignificant in terms of the surface of the Earth. So the effect would be
Good luck, guys. Good luck with that one, guys.
We're on a totally different thing now. We should continue watching the videos so that we can stay on one thing at a time.
That's up to Nathan, because you can sometimes get a strike against your account if you play somebody else's videos in your stream.
Oh, is that a thing?
Well, I mean, I don't know, since I don't do broadcasts. I don't know the conditions under which that applies.
Well, this would definitely fall under fair use. We are most definitely critiquing what this guy says in this video. There's no two ways about that. So I'm more than happy to play it. You just give me the nod when you want it played again, when everyone's happy and has debated What's
In a
what
nutshell,
so
the
far?
airplane is powered flight, guided. It is not on a ballistic trajectory like a projectile. That
And you
sums
don't,
up the difference, and you really
but it
shouldn't
doesn't.
need more than that.
Well, no, but wouldn't it have to take into account the movements when it's landing at 500 miles an hour?
Airplanes have to account for all sorts of things, and they do it.
Yeah, they're not, and they're not also
Air,
not landing
wind, everything.
It's not. What are they? They're sort of landing at like what? I guess. I mean, you're right. Maybe forgive me for saying 5 if they're traveling in 5. But
Well,
and
see,
I don't know
a
what
bullet.
they're landing. Point is, how would they not at least take it into consideration at all?
Well, I mean, they do. They take all of these things into consideration.
Are you sure?
Yeah, like play a flight simulator.
Dude.
Like
And?
a really advanced flight simulator, like a Microsoft flight simulator.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with what do you call it? Landing a plane and not using.
Well, because you need to land a plane and then take into account all these
Is
things.
there? Hold on,
wait.
Read
instruments that
I
are.
want to know. No, is there a Coriolis effect counter on the plane? Is that part of the
I mean,
instrumentation?
yeah, because you're traveling
okay, prove it.
over
No,
Earth.
that's fine. That's fine. Prove it.
Like a Coriolis effect counter.
Yeah. I want to
traveling
know
on a spherical Earth.
No,
so,
dude,
yeah.
you just said that. Yeah, so just prove it.
What do you prove? Go play one. Go do it. Go look up a video.
You're the one making a claim.
I just posted a link in the side chat that should answer all of these questions because it
probably
does,
won't,
and
though.
it simplifies it for you so that you can understand how the Coriolis actually does affect airplane flight. And it's less significant of an effect on an airplane than it is on a bullet.
Okay, scientism's Mother Teresa over here.
Thank you for insulting me yet again.
We should definitely.
Well,
Don't bust chops, Issa. Have respect. How about that? How about you don't put yourself up above everybody else and think and consider that you have the right to bust other people's chops, and you just have a respectful conversation with people who are respectful to you. How about that?
Having you're giving a lot of credence to the flat Earth guy. I think you shouldn't hold him to like such a high regard. We should just watch the video.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be rude.
Well, I mean, he's a flat earther. Like, what the fuck? What do you want from him? A round Earth?
I want him to evolve. How about that? Evolve,
Wiggy Marley gonna do what Wiggy Marley do.
I think we went off on
I mean, we've known the Earth was round for thousands of years. Like, I mean, come on. Like, he's devolving. Don't expect him to evolve.
Guys, I think you should watch out because I'm pretty sure Nathan doesn't like it when you swear in here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he
I
does.
have not swore. I have not swore.
Oh shit! I swear all the time. I'll catch that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, fucking Wayne.
I can't help myself. I can't even keep from swearing around like children. It's awful.
I can turn it on and off.
You're an evil man.
I am an evil man, corrupted by the Zionist Illuminati with their round Earth moon holograms.
I guess you're the scientism's pope then, right?
What science? Yeah, he said scientism. What's scientism? This is interesting.
Scientism is what the flat earthers conflate as science being another form of religion. So it's not. It's scientism is to believe in science.
I love it. I love every single bit of that. That's great. Yeah, I came here out of fascination, but this is fun.
Most Globers do. Actually, I would say that most people come to flat Earth out of fascination, and some people get pulled down by it, and other people try to stand up for what they know is truth, which would be what Globers are doing.
Is Chris Trofer in chat a flat earther?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hold on. Can I?
And it's Chris Topher, you know, like
Let me say something. If anyone, see, this is why we call you science. Like we call it scientism. Is the idea that like so right now it's like Channel Q thinks that everything is that what she's doing is the truth, and she's fighting for the truth as though she has some persuasion that she's going to say.
Well, thank you, Asa. But I want to address Chris Trofer, who's being ignored in chat right now. Thank you. So
you guys carry on. I'm out. Peace.
You can't talk to anyone west of you.
Issa. God damn it. I want to know how high to put the sun above the flat Earth so that all the measurements work out. Nobody can tell me that.
The sun is a spotlight. So Christopher, so well, you remember when I think it was Austin, right? Was it? No, it was Alex. Where am I getting Austin from? So Austin was talking about how the atmosphere moves with the Earth. So obviously, the wind isn't constantly blowing at hundreds and hundreds of miles an hour, because we'd all blow away, because the rotation because we're all moving with the atmosphere, so it looks like it's not moving at all. So then when we make a sound, so I talk and it goes into the microphone and it travels through the air, it is traveling with the atmosphere. So it doesn't matter how fast the Earth is rotating. I'm talking and it's traveling through the atmosphere that is traveling on the rotating Earth over to the person or thing hearing me talk. There you go, Christopher.
I find it amazing how such a big conspiracy would be sort of kept secret. So all the different companies and massive conglomerates, like people who produce planes or the actual any sort of large transportation of any form, um, like big companies like Symmetricon, big timekeeping companies, satellite companies, all of these different companies, and all of the engineers that work inside them, and all of the different people that are connected to them, all would have to have this big conspiracy theory, and they'd be held accounted to it, to keep it secret and to play along. It seems such a ridiculous thing, and it would be so impossible. I wonder how a flat earther comes to the understanding that the Earth is flat. So what about the globe Earth is so ridiculous that they feel that surely something is up? Like what? I don't know. It's very, very bizarre that someone would decide that the globe Earth doesn't work out for them, and flat Earth answers the question much better, when they have all these extremely complicated reasoning to come up with very simplistic answers.
Yeah, it's amazing, because you've simultaneously got to invent like an entire new realm of science, and also just ignore everything that you observe and other people observe in the natural world. It's fascinating. I love it.
But
so to answer, oh, sorry, what?
There's just so many jobs involving the shape of the Earth. So pilots and all of these different jobs and roles that we have in society, and all of them would have a fit, because if the Earth was flat, all of the different countries would be in different positions, and there'd be different ways of getting to them, and how it would all be able to be kept under wraps is just mind-boggling. How someone could believe that.
Exactly. So what our good friend Asa did was, from what it sounds like at least, and I love to quiz him on this at some point, was he takes the side of just like ignoring that pilots have to do that, instead of thinking that every single person who's ever flown a plane to a destination far away has had to do that at like every single point in their entire lives, and especially over like a body of water. But then I'm sure there'd be plenty of other flat earthers who would just be like, oh, yeah, the pilots are kept from saying things by the Zionist global Illuminati.
It just seems extreme. You may have John, who lives down the road, who has some connection to the shape of the Earth, who's at gunpoint from revealing the true reality. It just seems absolutely bizarre that someone would think that's the most logical answer to a question that was answered thousands of years ago.
Oh yeah, like totally. So Christopher, so you said that the air is made of particles. If it is moving at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, it's going to hinder sound traveling through it. So here's the thing. It's about relativity. Well, I mean, not like Einsteinian relativity, but like the concept of something being a relative. So relative to me as an observer on the Earth that is rotating, everything is rotating with me, including the air around me. There's no wind, obviously, caused by the rotation of the Earth, but that's because everything is rotating along with the Earth. So we don't need to worry about the wind traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, because all of the atmosphere is going along with me as I go along the surface of a rotating planet. So if I talked or there was some sort of sound, then that sound would travel along the air, moving at whatever distance according to the rotation of the Earth, relative to an observer who's just stuck in space. If I'm just going to say something, then that travels through the air. It doesn't matter how fast the air is moving relative to someone in space, because I'm on the ground. The air is on the ground with me, and the target of my speech is also on the ground through that air as we all travel along the surface of our rotating planet. So I hope that helps.
Can I just get you to pop yourself on mute just for 1 second, Alex, just while I do a quick plug? So if you are new to this channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you're new to Nathan Oakley, click on the link in the description box to go to my main channel, Nathan Oakley 1980, to see my views on Flat Earth and interviews and vlogs and all that good stuff related to Flat Earth. If you'd like to join the live show, there is a link in the information box below this video right now, so click on that if you'd like to debate with anybody who is on the panel currently. If you join in future shows at the beginning, the chances are you would join and be unopposed in your views, but for the time being, there are some staunch opinions on the Flat Earth side lacking, so hopefully we'll have some Flat Earthers join in the not too distant future. So that's it from me. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe once the video goes to render, and I'll leave these guys to thrash it out a little bit further.
Yay! It's been a pleasure being here. By the way, this has been a treat. I'm having fun. Thank you very much for hosting me.
I was very glad of your opinions at the start, because you were saying things like, is this guy in the chat really pretending to be this other, all that sort of stuff that you obviously were unfamiliar with, and many of the people on the panel might be familiar with it, but there's going to be people that click on this video that watch it and hear you say that and have no idea that that's going on. So having Channel Q explain it to you was handy. It's good to hear those sorts of things, the shock and amazement at the kind of nonsense that goes on in this arena, and it is fascinating. So having it detailed because you asked the question was great.
Yeah, Brenda was I know Brenda from a Discord, and we were talking about how she goes on and talks to like who has been debating flat earthers recently, and I was just asking all these questions, and then this thing was going on right now. So yeah, stop by. Hopefully I'll have more of a chance to do this in the future, because the entire concept of flat Earth, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? I love that people can think that, because it's a psychological phenomenon that's just that's the interesting part of it. Of course, not the flat Earth itself, but what someone would have to do to convince themselves of a flat Earth.
I can say safely that the fascination will wear off, and you will start to see that these people who think the earth is flat do not want to hear the facts and the truth, and do not want to do proper investigation, and then it can get somewhat tedious, and obviously you can be insulted quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, like from where I'm approaching, and this is of course my scientism hubris here, but from my approach was I never even considered the fact that these people could be persuaded by anything I say, it's more of a case study.
Yeah, well, the personalities of the flat earthers, I think, tend to be similar. So they all seem to have the same. I don't want to say anything too harsh or too insulting, but they all seem to have the same deficits in their understanding and their personality types that cause this sort of conflict and this inability to debate their points without incident or insults. So, and that might be in part because they don't really put in the effort to know what it is and to be able to, argue against what we say. Because, like, for example, Issa's saying that planes do not have to take in effect. He made that claim. They do not have to take in effect the Coriolis effect, where in fact they do. So,
Yeah, totally. So one thing that I wanted to ask about, I didn't get a chance to, was an experiment done. It's sometime in the BC, which is really fascinating. Where not really fascinating, but it's interesting because a lot of the time people seem to think that we didn't know that the Earth was round until like a couple
about
hundred
1,000 years
ago.
ago. Yeah, about 1,000 years, I think I've heard them say.
Yeah. So but I mean, ancient peoples from all over, especially like the Mediterranean region,
And the Sumerians, the Dogon, all knew of the spherical Earth.
And I mean, and you can tell just by looking at the Earth's shadow on the moon, which is, I imagine that's where the moon is a hologram thing comes from, or something like that.
Usually they go with the Ratu and the Ketu, or Rahu and Ketu, and say that there's another object in the sky that comes in front of the moon. It's not the Earth. It's an object blocking the sun or blocking the moon. Depends on which eclipse you want to, if you want to talk about a lunar or solar eclipse.
So like like a lunar eclipse. So like just a transparent red object that slowly grows in how red it gets over time and then passes, and it's a sphere and that blocks the moon. Like something like that.
There are other heavenly bodies that, like, say for instance, and that NASA doesn't tell us about, that are in other cosmologies, less educated cosmologies of this Rahu and Ketu, which would be, like dark objects that are above us, and NASA doesn't tell us about these things, and those are what block the sun or the moon, given on which kind of eclipse you're speaking of, lunar or solar.
Cool. Well, like in a lunar eclipse, because the Earth is just in the way of the sun and the moon. So I think Christopher said it's called a node. I don't know if that's relating to what
Newtons. Newtons, I think is the word he used. Something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, was he addressing like the?
So I may as well just tell you. Sorry to interrupt. He's saying it's the nodal point that they cross over at in. I forget which cosmology it is that describes it as that, but Rahu and Ketu, as opposed to being physical objects which are obscuring something, they're the nodal points. In other words, it's still conceding that it is the one crossing in front of the other. Sorry, just to butt in. I think that's what he's saying. Yeah. Hopefully he'll correct me if I'm putting words in his mouth.
And one of them is like this kind of like transparent thing that just makes the moon red. When you've got like the red moon thing going on from the Earth blocking the view from the sun.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted. And were you asking Nathan or were you asking me?
Oh, to anyone. Christopher.
Don't ask me.
Could you repose the question, because I was actually distracted and I didn't hear you.
So you know how you get those red moon things where the dawn or dusk from all sides of the Earth simultaneously as the sunlight travels through the atmosphere, it shines onto the moon and it makes the moon very red because that's the Earth blocking the view of the sun from the moon, just barely. So what's that according to them? Why does the moon get all red? Because I would have assumed that it's just a hologram controlled by the Illuminati, but
Yeah,
I don't know if
there are some people who like to go with simulation theory for sure, and they say it's all a simulation, and that's just a cop out, because if it's all a simulation, then it can be anything, and it doesn't have to make sense, right? Because it's just designed, in the simulation to be that way, and there are no cause and reaction, going on that you can follow back. So so there are flat earthers who will claim that it's a simulation, and I see that as a cop out, because then they can just ignore everything and say, well, it's designed to trick us. It's designed to make us think this and that. And I can't really answer for what flat earthers would say about a red dawn or a red moon or any of that stuff, because I am not a flat earther, and I don't think I've ever heard them bring that up in a discussion. I would have to ask the flat earthers that are present, possibly in the chat. I think there are a few.
I didn't even realise flat Earth was still an active debate.
It depends on who you ask. There are some flat earthers that never debate anyone. Like, for instance, Mark Sargent, he doesn't ever debate anyone. He just likes to lay down his point of view and then say goodnight. And then there are some flat earthers who claim the debate is over and that, it's over. And then maybe a week later, they're holding debates on their channel again. So.
I just didn't realise that sort of staunch advocates of flat Earth existed. I thought it was a non-issue, but it's just bizarre that this is you seem to
you
know
haven't heard of like Tequila and B.O.B.
about their arguments and their points of view, as if you've heard the arguments many times.
Are you speaking to me? I've heard the arguments many times. Yeah, I've been here.
You sound very knowledgeable on the arguments that are posed from the flat earthers' point of view.
Yes, I've been here for a long time in flat Earth. I've listened to the flat Earth arguments, and I've spoken to flat earthers. I guess I wouldn't say that I don't support them, because I do, because I give them views, and occasionally, I will thumb up their videos if I like, whatever transpired or whatever. But I think it's their right to explore these ideas and to question these things. Absolutely. And I just wish that they would try harder to get the right answers instead of just insulting people and then walking away from the conversation, like we've seen as an example tonight from Issa.
I'll be right back. My Illuminati handler has to have a couple of words with me, and then I'll be right back. Just one moment.
I've always found the debate on religion a far more sort of enjoyable and effective debate to have, as I feel that the debate on the flat Earth has no real consequences either way, like religion does to society.
Well, okay, I could see that, but I would maybe disagree based on this fact. First of all, for me, religion would be, as Issa put it, a personal choice, and none of it is verifiable to some degree when it comes to religion. So if you choose to believe, and I'm just going to put things just kind of very maybe crass, or just with religion, I mean, you get all these choices, and some people may call them fairy tales. And so you choose which fairy tale suits you best, and which fairy tale maybe is, hereditary or, traditional for your family or your lifestyle. And that is a personal choice, and I respect that. And if people want to choose to be Christian or atheist or Buddhist or whatever, that is their choice, and they can do that. And I'm not really going to argue them with that, because it'd be the same thing as me arguing with someone about what color they should change their hair. But when it comes to the flat earth, I feel it's different, because I feel that the flat earth shouldn't be argued, because we can prove that it isn't a flat earth. And furthermore, I feel that the caution or the danger that comes in is the flat earthers tend to isolate themselves from family, and they tend to be very volatile towards people who do not think that the earth is flat. And I think that that could progress into something a little bit more either, self-harming or outwardly harming.
Going back,
And
going back
it's
to
imp-
your going back
I,
to your first point of it tends to be your own choice of which fairy tale that you take on. Um,
and I'm sorry for using the word fairy tale, but I just thought
no,
it was the
that's
best
fine.
way
That's
to
fine.
make my point.
No, that's absolutely fine. So I don't agree with that, because it's more about your upbringing and how you're indoctrinated. So in the States, the chances are you will be brought up as a Christian. And if you're in India, if you're brought up in India, the chances are you'll be Hindu, or in Pakistan,
Yes.
the chances are you'll be a Muslim. So it's not really your own personal choice as such.
Well, that's why I said that it was a
Indoctrination of
matter of
children,
tradition and hereditary religion.
not personal choice. And the only way to combat that is to debate religion, to have fair, open, and honest debate with the religion, and to give your knowledge and your points of view, if you have anything contrary to their belief, um, is helpful to those in a position where where you said the flat earthers may become separated from their families and stuff. If you're part of the Muslim religion and
Or a Hasidic Jew, you will be ostracized if you let go of your religion. I understand those things,
I
definitely.
think that's far more pressing as an issue than to sort of become a bit of a loner and separate yourself from your family because you wear a tinfoil hat and believe that the earth is flat. But with indoctrination of children, I feel it's a much more pressing debate to be had.
Well, I think it's important to only answer questions if they're asked. And I don't know a lot of religious people who ask me if they should be a Christian. They're just a Christian, and I just accept that. They don't ask me to, ask me why, why I'm not a Christian, and ask me to prove that. Whereas flat earthers will ask me why I think it's a globe and ask me where my proof is of that. Whereas, like a Christian or a Hindu, they're just going to be a Christian or a Hindu, and whatever it is I think isn't going to matter.
One has a position that is backed up by their entire background and social group and society that they live in. The other position is as a contrarian and as someone who has taken a position solely for the point of having debate, argument, and in some respects attention. That it's um, quite an interesting difference to see how one person with a religion and one person who has a contrary belief for the sake of being a contrarian. So that's maybe why um, arguments have been offered for you from a contrarian than have from someone who's grown up in a family and their mum and dad have told them that God's real or whatever, as opposed to going through schooling, learning about the Earth, planets, how it all works as such, and then deciding that that's rubbish, that they are privy to the real knowledge and the real understanding, and they're particularly special as they have a better understanding, as opposed to someone who's a little bit more innocent, a little bit less overstated.
Just going to take this opportunity to introduce a new guest. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Alex.
Sorry.
Actually, while I've got your attention, Alex, can you just flick your camera off just so we get your icon rather than a black screen when you're talking? That'd be brilliant. But we've got Left Hand Path joining us, so thank you for joining us. Can I call you Mark? Is that okay?
Yes, anything you like. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Mark. Good to have you.
Great, thanks
Hello,
a lot.
Mark.
I've just been listening in. I haven't got particularly much to say at the moment, but I've just been listening in, so I thought I would join and.
We'd love to know your position on the shape of the planet.
Well, yeah, I mean, my expertise isn't necessarily on flat Earth points. I must be honest. I mostly debate the religious and metaphysical angle of these things. So I generally don't go into the flat Earth debate because I'm prone to making a fool of myself on both sides of the argument. So I try to remain largely on the fence with regards to that.
But if you were forced off that fence, which side do you think you'd slip? As this is a flat Earth debate.
Well, I mean, I've always been skeptical of mainstream cosmology, and people ask me all the time what first got me interested in the flat Earth community, and it's difficult for me to actually pick an exact point. I think it was just questioning what we'd been told and thinking, oh, look at this, and it was a bit of a cult of personality, really, and I sort of got into it from there. So, but I mean, I don't concern myself with all these maps and models and things like that. So I just find it fascinating, but I don't concern myself with it on a personal note.
That was a slimy way of saying I'm not answering the question, but I love it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, are you a flat earther or are you a sphere earther, Mark?
I lean more towards flat Earth, but I don't actually call myself a flat earther. I never actually have said.
So you're sort of an agnostic.
So you're one of those who's like a globe agnostic or an earth agnostic, as far as it's concerned.
Well, I suppose agnosticism would kind of be a sensible way of saying it. Yeah.
And then can I ask you, what would be the proof that you would require in order to put you on the sphere?
On the sphere?
What would it take? Would you have to go into outer space and witness it for yourself, or?
Well, they do say that seeing is believing. So obviously, if I did, by whatever miraculous means, go into outer space and see it for myself, then obviously, yes, I would believe that it was a ball. Then, yeah, because we're not going to go against our own senses, are we?
You're saying, is that the minimum requirement you would require personally?
Okay, let me ask you a question since you brought up the fact that you're not going to go against your own senses. Okay, so let me ask you about how qualified your senses are for making exact measurements, which is what the problem is with the flat Earth, is that people think that they can look at the horizon and see that it's not curved without actually taking a measurement in order to back up what they're seeing. So here's my question. If you are driving in a car and the car does not have a speedometer, will you know how fast you're going?
Well, no, you wouldn't. No, you would have a sort of general idea, but no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't know how fast you're going without the speedometer.
Your senses are not going to tell you exactly how fast you're going. They can estimate that you're going 30 or 40 miles an hour, but they're not going to tell you that you are going 45 miles an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
So that's the same problem we have with the flat Earth, is that you cannot look at something and know exactly how far away it is, how tall it is, how slanted it is. You need to use a tool for measuring. And that tool often needs to be mathematical, not water.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree myself. I know some would, but I don't. I understand that. Just like here in the UK, they often use this thing about looking from Blackpool towards the Isle of Man, and I live in that area, and it's not a very far distance.
I'm familiar with it.
It's not a far distance, so I don't disagree with what you're saying with regards to that at all. No.
So then you're agreeing that your senses are not a good indication of the shape of the Earth.
Well, if you're looking at an individual's senses as an individual being on the large scale of the Earth, then of course not. No, because we can only sense a very small amount of the Earth around us. So you wouldn't you can't just look out your window and say, well, that I can understand the Earth from looking out my window.
So what you're saying, if I may put it into simpler terms, is that what may appear to you from your small perspective may not be what is. So if you're observing the world as flat, it doesn't necessarily mean that the world is flat.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That's fine.
Yeah, he's not staunch in opposition. He's more agnostic.
I get that. I'm just having the conversation so that the points can be made because the dialogue is, I think, important that we're having here.
What about a question like, why is the moon sometimes lit from underneath?
It's something I've not given a great deal of thought to, I must say.
That's one of the, the moon is celestial object which is closest to planet Earth, easiest to observe.
Yeah.
It has the appearance that it's round, not necessarily spherical. We only ever see one side or whatever. But you have the phases of shadow that run across the moon, the surface of the moon that's visible from Earth. Sometimes the moon is lit from underneath. With a flat Earth, the sun has to be a spotlight above Earth that sort of moves around, highlighting different areas. It couldn't ever be beneath the Earth, otherwise that would make every part of the Earth dark at one point. So how would the moon be lit from underneath? Either the moon is higher than the sun, or it is lower than the sun. Just simple things like that you'd have to consider to get your position.
Well, I think the flat earthers would say that the moon is self-illuminating, first of all. That would be their first point. And then second of all, I do believe that they would give the same explanation that they give for why the clouds are lit from underneath, and it's that the Earth is actually reflecting the light back up from the sun.
But then why would it be lit from one side of the moon then?
See, but I'm not a flat earther, so I cannot argue these points because I know that they're incorrect. I can just give you a basic sort of a simplified understanding of what I know that flat earthers say.
Yeah, but I'm just giving him something to consider when deciding his position, because to go against all scientific method, all known understanding, and against all modern technology, to take a position, you'd have to have some quite concrete evidence, or at least quite a concrete theory to stand your position on if you're going to go against the entire weight of that. And just simple questions like that can help to give you a better understanding of what you really think deep down, on how you think that the solar system is acting. And in regards to the moon either be self-illuminating, that doesn't explain the phases of the shadow as it moves across the moon. So if it was acidic and it was creating some sort of electricity or energy of such, then it would be completely illuminated. But the fact that the phase moves so regularly across indicates that the moon isn't self-illuminating, and the sunlight bouncing off the Earth, because of the way the phases are, and they're not always exactly the same position relative to the Earth. Also,
there's actually a flat earther with an answer for that. Christopher wants to say the moon is a 5-degree inclination to the sun. So sometimes it is slight above the sun and sometimes it is below the sun. That is his answer. And he is a legitimate flat earther. If you can see that in the chat.
So it's the same size, is it, the Earth and the sun?
Well, that's what flat earthers think, yes.
Yeah, that they're like small globes that fly above the flat Earth or something along those lines.
So if the moon was lit underneath, illuminated from underneath, then would that not mean that the moon has to then be above the sun? Because if it was in a different plane from this spotlight sun, then surely it would be lit from side, or at least at a 5-degree angle, which would pretty much be from the side. If it's completely out of sight and it's only however many thousand miles from the Earth and only 5 degrees lower, it would be illuminating the side of the visible moon, wouldn't it? If the sun's completely out of sight, so it wouldn't be lighting it underneath, would it?
Well, unless the moon is a hologram.
No. That's just ridiculous. A self-illuminating hologram that's 5 degrees. No. It's too extreme. It becomes
Well, like, so the sun is supposed to be a spotlight or something that like directs light in various ways, and
what
so
I've
that's
heard,
why.
yes, spirals around like a flat Earth, creating seasons and stuff by the way that it moves. But it only highlights what it's above, so that's why it can be sort of light in Australia and dark in the UK at the same on the same plane. So it highlights only one area as it spins about.
Yeah,
But-
well, see, like
but-
when you've got flat earthers that really care about the science and don't just kind of just like brush it off, then you've got to go with the sun is a spotlight that like directs light in different areas, and that's why it's night sometimes and day some other times. Because I mean, obviously, the sun just can't be like some sort of like a sphere that reflects light in all directions. It's got to be a spotlight, otherwise the flat Earth, wouldn't work. And the moon either needs to be some sort of like it needs to produce its own light, so it's independent from the light of the sun, or it's or the sun has like a different spotlight and then we just can't see it. And like
it's like almost mental gymnastics to try and bring like a piece of puzzle together to try and make sense, but it's nigh on impossible. And I think it was Mark, was it? You said you were more interested in the side of religion in regards to flat Earth. I'd love to hear some more about that. That would be quite interesting.
Well, yeah, well, my whole angle with it really started with the sort of religious and metaphysical aspects of belief in general, really, and that's kind of how I started coming onto these shows. I mean, are you interested in religion relating specifically to flat Earth beliefs, things like that, or sort of?
More so your take on it would be more revealing and interesting.
Well, it's difficult to know where to start, really. I mean, there's.
Well, do you believe in God? Would be a starting point.
Oh, my personal beliefs. Oh well, I would describe myself more as a deist rather than a theist. I'm not a. I don't believe in a personal God, in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe that it's entirely possible that there is a creative force to reality, which is more deism than theism. I'm not an atheist.
But an atheist could also have that point. An atheist is saying that the fact that you may present us with a religion, but we don't believe in it, so we call ourselves atheists. We're not saying that it isn't true. We just would require the evidence to back it up. Is that the same position that you take?
Very similar, yeah. It's certainly a lot of people would put my beliefs more within the atheist belief than the theist belief. I mean, I have no reason to believe in a personal God, and when I look at mainstream religions and certainly the way in which they have people behaving with regards to their personal gods, it's certainly nothing that, even if these gods existed, I wouldn't necessarily wish to worship them in any way, but I have no reason to believe in them.
What's your take on evolution?
What sort of just the evolution in terms of the origin of human life type of thing, or just evolution in general? Because obviously things in general evolve.
Evolution's quite neat.
Sorry?
No, you go on.
It is neat. Yeah. What is your just evolution in general? What would be your take on it?
Well, I think we should. People who deny evolution often tend to deny everything to do with all forms of evolution. Where if you look at things on a microcosm, just within your own life, things do evolve themselves, and so it stands to reason that evolution would exist on a macrocosmic level as well. We don't stay the same. We do evolve in our own lives, just in the very small.
Well, that's not how evolution works. We don't evolve within one lifespan.
Well, I think he just means like the changing nature of life. like on a personal level. So of course it would change on a macroscopic level, over a long period of time. But am I correct in my idea?
Yeah, you wouldn't obviously when I said sorry, go on.
I wasn't talking sort of behavioral or personal evolution. I was talking more about sort of evolution of species and sort of stemming from whether it be a creator of some form or if it is from evolution itself. Just maybe a take on that. Not sort of personal lifetime changing behavior and evolving that way, with that sense of the word.
Well, I don't know what this has to do with flat Earth. Let's ask him about flat Earth. Hey, tell us about flat Earth.
I don't deny evolution, if that's what you're trying to say. All I was saying there is that it stands to reason to accept evolution if you evolve throughout my research in occult and esoteric, which is what everyone wants to hear about when I talk. That's all they ever want to hear about is what happens on a tiny level can often represent what happens on a larger level. So I was saying you wouldn't deny that you evolve throughout your own life in a small lifespan that you have. So it stands to reason that life with survival of the fittest or whatever would evolve throughout millions of years. I'm not the type of person who would deny that. I know that there are some in the flat earth who do, but that I wouldn't. It's gone quiet.
So what do you have to say about flat Earth then?
I've said I'm not actually. I'm just interested in the stuff.
Okay. So you don't have some kind of like thesis statement on like some sort of occult religious angle on it.
The occult religious angle in flat Earth generally doesn't seem to be occult. They mostly seem to be coming from some type of biblical point. That's not where I would come from. There have been many religions and philosophies in the past with a flat Earth model to them. Most specifically, things such as ancient Egypt and so on had a flat Earth design to them. Obviously, these beliefs often would change throughout the different generations of the beliefs. I think the people that are coming to the modern flat Earth societies and groups through religion are often coming to it through a Western Christianized style religion, which interests me on a personal note because I'm interested in researching this type of thing. Like, I just find it interesting why people believe certain things and why people don't believe other things.
Oh yeah, totally. With flat Earth, like there's of course always going to be that angle of just like general distrust of academia and science. Yeah, it's like psychologically, and I actually think I said this just like a little while ago, but psychologically, it's incredibly interesting the way that people think and the reasons why they think those things and etc.
Well, yeah, that's my whole angle on it, really, which is with flat Earth and other things is just like why people believe something, and a lot of it's historic. So I'm very interested in history. And if you look at, say, like the ancient Egypt flat Earth, it actually represents a fairly interesting way of understanding the minds of the people who were creating these religions and these things from the past. To look at how they thought about the universe and the Earth in their designs. It can tell us quite a lot about the minds of the people behind all these things that people love, such as pyramids and the people who built them. If we look at how they perceived the universe and what they thought when they looked towards the night sky, that tells us something about the psychology of the people themselves.
Oh yeah, totally. Because it tells us about ourselves as well. Because like the reasons that, I hear, at least tonight I've heard a lot of the. Well, actually tonight it's like 2 p.m. Gee, fuck, I need it. Oh, Anyway, the a lot of the people that that talk about like believing in flat Earth is that, oh, I trust my eyes, and I don't see around Earth. And you can have the idea that, like, ancient people, thousands, possibly tens of thousands of years ago, just look around them, and then they don't have any inclination that their world is spherical. Like, honestly, why would they? It's a thought that requires a greater scientific like consensus that didn't exist back then. And then this immediate strange counter culture towards that long understood consensus, based upon just this completely just individual level analysis of the world that makes up the philosophy of flat Earth. I mean, yeah, super cool.
Yeah, it's a very interesting psychological angle. I mean, I must say that the flat Earth world here on YouTube is different to any other internet community that I've ever come across, and I think that's what makes me stick with it. It's just so different from forums about anything else. The all the different groups and the different people, and sometimes they're at each other's throats, and sometimes they love each other, and it's just really interesting, this sort of little world. It's like a world within a world that's built itself around this belief, or in flat Earth, and I find it very interesting indeed, really.
Yeah, specifically, I see a lot of crossover, at least if not in membership, but certainly in membership. But a lot of crossover of the same kind of like thoughts and the same kind of like goings on the inter-community level between the flat Earth people and like hardcore neo-Nazi fascist groups, things like that.
I've not seen any neo-Nazi stuff myself, but I have seen definitely crossovers of different types of, truthers and different conspiracy angles and things. Yeah, most definitely.
Oh yeah, totally. But just like the mindset, because one of the big conceits of like a modern day like fascism, for example, is that there's this global conspiracy going on that makes it so that brown people are invading Western society, and they're inferior, and they're gonna try to like take all the white women and then destroy, like just bring down the Western European cultural value kind of thing. So then these brown people, they're obvious they can't be this smart in order to institute this takeover, because if they're inferior, how could they be winning? And then so they have to invent the grand Jewish conspiracy, and that's where a lot of the anti-Semitism comes from, in order to mastermind this plot of the takeover and destruction of Western society. And one of the crossovers that you see very directly with that kind of stuff is an anti-Semitic angle, where the NASA, like the globalist elites, and sometimes the Jews themselves, are blamed as the people trying to hide the truth from the public.
Well, yeah, I mean, these the Jewish conspiracy seems to tie into to the wider sort of Illuminati conspiracy angles, I think. But I do see that within these communities. Again, what interests me with that again is the psychological basis of it, which is the idea that there is this hidden hand which is trying to cover up everything. That they say, like, some of these conspiracies will go to the level that literally everything that they see around them is being controlled by whoever it is.
Eric, Eric, do you feel that stems from sort of xenophobia? Do you?
Well, I mean, like naturally, yeah, to an extent, like xenophobia as a scapegoat for societal problems. Yeah.
It seems such a bizarre take to have on the big conspiracies just to explain the Earth is a different shape. It seems quite bizarre. That would stem from xenophobia.
Yeah,
there's no real reason to have like a take on what shape the Earth is, if that makes sense. It doesn't really have any bearing on your lifestyle.
Yeah, well, it's the same kind of thinking that like goes into those other groups, and specifically with anti-science stuff, like the anti-vaxxers, people who don't believe in global warming, like all kinds of that kind of stuff. But yeah, like the similarities between the thought processes that go into them, and then that go into like nationalist movements that use things like hatred directly to influence their their membership, and influence people in order to joining them. There's this strange regressive commonality between a lot of them that you have to imagine it comes from the same place. But is that place something to do with our wider culture, or is that place something to do with just the very nature of those ideas in particular?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I'd be interested to know what sort of percentage of society flat earthers were. I don't know if anyone could enlighten me.
God, it's very difficult to know, because certainly within the YouTube community, it's only a small corner of YouTube, but obviously they're trying to reach out. You get people reaching out to different, like when IPS did those chat raids, which I was never a fan of. I must lay my cards down there. The chat raids. That was an interesting insight into people who had never heard of Flat Earth having all of a sudden been bombarded with it from this other small corner of YouTube. And of course, the sort of way they thought about it was, oh, these people, they must be completely mad. What a load of nutters. Just totally blocked it out. So I think probably it is only for quite a small corner of people who are genuine hardcore flat earthers. Although it does seem to be gaining more and more ground, which is quite interesting to me, actually, that it does seem to be doing that.
Mark, you seem very, very versed, and you appear to have a real knowledge of the community itself, and you take the position as an agnostic, which I find a little bit bizarre. So it indicates to me that you've heard some very persuasive arguments in respect of the flat Earth to go against the common census, and I'd just like to know which of the arguments you found most compelling.
Well, it's one of those things, like when I first started it, and you get bombarded with all the stuff straight away when you first come in. There was a point when I first started that I thought, oh yeah, this makes sense, and probably maybe the Earth is actually flat. It was just an accumulation of all the arguments, which at face value seemed to be compelling from a perspective of academic distance. If you don't sort of look into them too far, like flat water, for example, things like that, you would think, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Go into it, and then I did start to doubt a lot of it, but I never left it completely because of what I've said about finding it interesting.
So I am going to round this show up in the next couple of minutes. So if you are new to Nathan Oakley YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon to get informed when these shows run, so you can join the live conversation. If you're new to Nathan Oakley, click on the info box to get a link to my main channel, which is Nathan Oakley 1980, and subscribe there for interviews and vlogs alike. I'm going to give these guys a couple more minutes and then I'm going to round out the show proper and thank the audience one last time. So I'll just try back to those guys and turn them back up.
Not particularly. Probably just the water arguments that people would come out with. Although because my interest in it was mostly historical, things like domes and ice walls and things are interesting in a historic standpoint. Not that I would necessarily believe that they were physically true. So there wasn't any particular point where I thought, right, that's it, absolutely, that's the one that I'm going down. No, the answer would be no to that.
Well, yeah, that's super interesting, and it's obviously, you know, a kind of fascination there when talking about that idea, and it's interesting your experience, because I wonder if not that fascination with the very concept is a strong recruiting tool for the flat earthers. I mean, obviously not a super strong one, but something that has gotten people into that thing, you know, in general.
It could be. I mean, the first flat Earth YouTube channel that I ever well, actually, no, I'm telling a lie. I was going to say the first flat Earth channel I saw was Jeranism, but believe it or not, the first flat Earth video I ever saw was Martin Liedker and Nathan Oakley going to look at the map of Mundi. That was the first one I ever saw, and I just thought, oh, these people are really interesting. I'm going to look more into this. But then the first sort of real flat Earth channel I saw was Jeranism, and I think he does put a lot of that, what you were saying, like stuff like that out there. But I went right off. Jeranism's videos, I was interested in them for quite a period until he started coming out with things that made me doubt his, you know, his genuineness, if that's a word.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mark. I'm going to actually round out this show here. So, big massive thank you to all of the live audience who have joined us. If you guys have got anything particularly pressing that you must get in at this stage, I'll give you maybe another minute to do that. And if not, I'll just thank you all for being here. So if you want to do that now. Or maybe not.
Moonbeam City got a really bad rap because its first episodes are really bad, but I want to encourage everyone to just skip the first two. Just watch episode 3. It's really good. It's not an Archer ripoff. Yeah.
Like Rick and Morty.
Not exactly the plugs I was hoping you would give, but there we go. I think with that, I will say one last thank you to our main audience for joining us, and be sure to, as I've said many times, hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. I will see you all in the next video.